Good afternoon, everybody. It's your favorite cryptid huntress. It's Jessica Jones. You guys, we have such a wild and crazy show for y'all today. Of course we do. We always have a wild and crazy show. But I was just laughing with Barry, and I kind of gave him the rundown of our outline for today's show. And I couldn't stop laughing, actually, because it's kind of interesting. I bet you guys had no idea we would be talking about Justin Bieber today. Okay, we're going to be talking about shapeshifting and the missing people, abductions, cannibalism, and chronic wasting diseases. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's all connected. And boy, we had a really cool show on Monday. I had Dr. Dennis Carroll here. We talked about recycled celebrities, and this actually ties into that a little bit as well. I kind of try to keep it interesting, y'all, and we go from one topic to the next, and we see how they connect. And this show right here is no different today. So you guys go grab your popcorn and get ready to jump down the rabbit hole with Jessica and Barry today. Well, I've got Barry Littleton here in the studio today, and Barry has done extensive videos, lots of research, extensive research on chronic wasting diseases and like kuru as well, things that cannibals end up acquiring. Okay, and I know that sounds kind of gross. We're going to start it off with some fun talk, I promise y'all, and then we'll get into the more dense topics, okay, towards the end of the show today. So if you guys would like to follow along with all my shows and all that kind of good stuff, y'all go head up my website. It's thecryptidhuntress.com. You can find all my social media links over there. I do have a Patreon if you guys would like to support my work. And I have a shop. It's all on sale right now. It's called War Woman Goods, and that's over on Etsy. All right. Thank you guys so much for all your support. It means the world to me. Also, I am going to be speaking at the Myrtle Beast Bigfoot Festival coming up next month. That's in May 9th through the 10th. And this is a nice little flyer. There's more people that'll be there, but these are the main speakers right here for that event. We got Mike Famelon. You guys, I had him on my show. I think it was Spaced Out Radio a while back. And I've got Matthew Delph coming, or not like I'm not throwing the conference, y'all. We've got Matthew Delph coming, David Pardue, Dr. John Stamey. He's the organizer of this event. and the guys from North Carolina Investigates. That's Harley Owens and George Lunsford and Robert Eifler and Tim Dills. Okay. And those guys are a hoot. So if you guys are in the South Carolina area of Myrtle Beach, please come see us at that. You can get tickets. I think it's myrtlebeastbigfoot.com is where you get the tickets for that. And it will be at the 4 Point Sheraton, I guess, Conference Center. I don't know. It's a hotel, I think. So y'all come see us there and you can go to the beach. Okay. So it's right there at the beach. Okay. I do have other events coming up as well. You guys check those out over on my website. Okay. Well, let's get into our subject today because I mean, my goodness, if we are having, famous celebrities shapeshifting into reptilian lizard men right in front of hundreds of people, I think we should be talking about that. Okay. I am the Cryptid Huntress, and I'm going to hunt down these celebrity reptilians. How about that? So let's get into it. Of course, I do have Barry Littleton here with me today, and Barry is a cutting edge researcher. He has a YouTube channel called Barry Littleton and a Patreon called Barry Littleton. Y'all, please look him up. And he has done so much research into just about everything I've ever talked about on my channel. Okay. And way before I ever did. And please help me welcome to the show our good friend, Barry Littleton. Hey, Barry. Hey, Barry. Are you ready?
Not everything, man. not this.
I tricked you into
Man,
coming on today,
I
didn't
tell
I?
you, the fact you wrote me up into this one, Jones. I'll give it to you. I mean, I saw that title. I was like, WTH.
I tricked you into this one. Okay. Well, I gotta be honest.
It was unexpected, so I was a kind of a replacement guest, so that's cool though. I mean, wow.
It's fantastic. Well, I had originally planned on having Terry here, and we were going to talk about the little people, and so we had to switch it up this morning, and because he couldn't be here, and so I had this on backup. I've been wanting to talk about this for a while, but in the news lately, I've been seeing, and it's on social media mostly. I don't watch the news, okay, but all over social media lately, we've been hearing about Justin Bieber being seen by hundreds of people shapeshifting into a reptilian. Now, I started doing research on this, Barry. It's not just once. This is multiple cases of people seeing him shapeshifting in court, at the airport, and before concerts. I mean, it is just bizarre, super bizarre about this. And so I wanted to kind of talk about that a little bit in the beginning.
Have you seen any video of it or anything? Caught on video him doing this?
Alleged still shots today. They said that there were hundreds of people that witnessed this, and that there were bodyguards there who actually threatened anyone who had their phones out recording it, saying that they would beat them up and, punch if they posted that. I know. It sounds really bizarre, right? And I think one of the more bizarre parts is that it was so covered in all the news media, which is very odd. It kind of pushes me to think, well, maybe this is just something that they, like a psyop or something that they're pushing, because why would it be in like Cosmopolitan and, for kids? Yeah. Magazines. Yeah. Why would they run this, this article? Makes you wonder. Makes me wonder. I know, right? I know, right?
No,
what do you think?
I'll tell you what. You're telling me something. You're showing me something that I am very much unabreast of current events, because I had not heard about this, and I guess I'm not up on my Bieber information or my Hillary Duff or whoever. I guess I'm not up anymore. But yeah, so I'm like Robin in the Batmobile with you. I'm just kind of along for the ride here, man. Tell me all about it, Jones. Tell me about the shapeshifting.
Oh, I've got Bieber. It. Oh, we're going there. We're going there. Okay. Well, we're going to talk about this a little bit, because we're going to tie it into some other things that we're going to talk about today. And so, well, of course, here's a side by side. I think they look a little different there. Okay. But this is kind of a tongue in cheek. This is, if anyone's not familiar with who Justin Bieber is, he is a pop icon, a pop star. Okay. And I wanted also to bring this up because on Monday, Dr. Dennis Carroll and I talked about recycled celebrities. And this is one that I did not bring up, but this is one that people put out there. Anyone who's a conspiracy theorist who thinks that there are, recycled celebrities out there. I think that there are personally. But some people think that Justin Bieber is Miley Cyrus. Okay. It is wild. Okay. He thinks so. Talking about recycled celebrities, just right off the bat, let's get this out of the way. Okay. I know. I'm also the clone Huntress. Okay. I'm just kidding. The cryptid clone Huntress.
I stop laughing at
I know. Well, I mean, it is funny. We got to kind of laugh at it.
Brother and sister, kind of.
They do.
It's another example of cloning or all the stuff we can call it. So.
Well, they do. And, it just ties into all this mass deception and stuff too of the general public, and kind of blurring the lines between things, and like who's who and what's what. And kind of, it's just something else for us to sit here and chase our tails over. And I mean, I have fun with it. Okay, I do. And we talk about it on our shows, but it really just keeps people distracted. Okay, I think that's the big thing, is a lot of this keeps people distracted. So we have to take it all with a grain of salt. Okay, we really do. And of course, you hear stories, especially on my trusted news source, TikTok, okay, about people, celebrity shapeshifting into reptilians, but there's also some pretty well known, groups and I don't want to say conspiracy, but like truther movement groups and stuff that put out these eyewitness accounts, testimonies of people who said they've actually watched people like the Queen of England shapeshift into a reptilian, and give pretty gory details about it as well. And these people seem to be quite credible, when they're speaking out on it. And so for the normal human, it's hard for us to wrap our heads around it. Okay. You and I, Barry, are not normal humans. Okay. We're aware that there's weird stuff in this world. Just like our audience today, they know there's weird stuff out there. But now that it's kind of becoming more mainstream, I think it's catching a lot of people's attention at this point. And
are you saying you and I are not? What is the word
normal.
you always use? Normies. Normies. Yeah,
we're not normies. No,
I spent decades trying to pretend I was a normie and blend in.
Yeah. Yes, you don't want that. Yeah, you don't want that. But okay. Well, let's talk about this briefly, okay? Because I went to go look for some articles on Justin Bieber's shapeshifting into reptilians, and a lot of times when you hear about people who are seen shapeshifting, you're gonna, it's mostly musicians like Adele, okay, the singer. She was said to have shapeshifted into a big old lizard person. But I started finding articles about like Justin Bieber shapeshifting in court. Okay, apparently he had to go to court in Miami. I don't know what he did. There's no telling. And they said that when in the video, I actually did watch the video of him talking to the judge. It was like a video conference call kind of thing between him and the judge. And his eyes were doing that, where they pixelate, Barry. And I think that a lot of times when we're watching these TV shows, they show these TV anchors and stuff, and you'll start seeing their faces pixelate a little bit. And that's what was going on with him. Now, could have been the camera. He was in jail. Okay. It's probably not the most high-tech camera. I don't know. You know what I mean? I have a really crappy camera that I'm broadcasting from today. Hopefully I don't start pixelating. Okay. I'm not a reptilian that I know of, y'all. Okay. I'm just saying. But you just, it gets, there's that factor. Okay. There's that factor. But there's also this like holographic thing, right? That they say that reptilians are able to, it's almost like a screen memory. It's something that where they project it onto us. They project images onto us where we don't see their true form, right, Barry?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Holographic projection.
Mm-hmm.
Or, one that distorts either whether it be the way they appear to us or our ability to perceive them, or both.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact of how suggestive people are is really pretty creepy, to be honest.
Oh, yes. And you're a hypnotherapist. And so it's all about the power of suggestion, right? And to the power of the mind, really.
Mm-hmm.
You would know that better than anybody.
Yeah. Certainly speaking, those of us that are not really QHHT people, I don't, no respect to those people, but that's not what I've learned or the systems I use. And when you start dealing with something that's rapid inductions or instant inductions, it's a trip how quickly people can go under. It's much easier than anyone would think. Okay. And when you have people that skillfully do that to manipulate people, it's not just unethic, but it's dark, and it's that whole thing going on. But be surprised how manipulative people are and how easily people just slip into alpha alone from visual stimulation. It's really easy, so it's just things that we're not, average person isn't aware of, or what brain entrainment is, and let alone these frequencies, these directed energy weapons they're hitting folks with that are awake and that are aware and born here awake. It's a whole deal to suppress this whole shift in consciousness, which pretty much gets the Barry Littleton thumbs down. I think it sucks.
Yeah, right. It gets the Jessica Jones thumbs down too. 2 thumbs down in a Z formation. Okay. Oh my God, it really does. That's terrible. And but we see it. We've got on our glasses, our They Live glasses. We can see through a lot of this stuff. But it's pretty wild, and it's a little bit scary. I wanted to thank Maureen real quick before we go further. Thank you for gifting those Cryptid Huntress memberships, Maureen. That is so sweet. I got a big old crowd of Cryptid Huntress memberships over on the YouTube channel. So you guys please go over there and become a member if you'd like. I put exclusive content out there.
Shout out
Thank
to
you,
Maureen.
Maureen.
She
That is
follows
so
the
sweet.
stuff I put up on Facebook. She's real nice. So
She's
very
amazing.
intelligent too. Yeah.
Thank you,
So
Maureen.
people,
And
like,
Gus.
sometimes I put up stuff that I regret, but at the last one I didn't, and it's just the weird stuff. You've seen some of the weird stuff I put up, and just
You can
like,
always
for
delete it.
example, I'm always looking for time edits, and they're small
Oh, yeah.
sometimes. And the last one was, I swear that when I was a kid, that peanut butter was called Jiffy, not Jif. It was the
Mandela.
Jiffy, like
Mhm.
baking stuff, and then there was the Jiffy peanut butter. It wasn't
It's
Jif,
Jiffy.
J-I-F.
Choosy moms choose. Well, it's Jif now, but it used to be Jiffy, right?
Yeah, I swear it was
Wasn't it?
Jiffy. There was Skippy,
It was.
and then there was Jiffy. You know,
Mhm.
it was Oscar Mayer, not Oscar Meyer. Oscar Meyer, not Oscar Mayer.
It was
Little things
Meyer.
like that. And some
Yeah.
things I think that we're being a little bit too specific when it comes to Mandela effect and time edits. That's really the Mandela effect, is really time edits. And sometimes we're being a
Yes.
little bit too specific, but there are certain things that come up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's really interesting, you know.
It's so. I think it's cool. I think it's really cool because it just shows you what timeline you were on. Basically, is what I've always thought. You know, when it comes down to Chick-fil-A, I'll never get over that one.
I don't care what anybody says. That food is
Yeah.
not as good as it was the first time around. It just is.
It's all right. It's all right. Yeah, you're right. It's gotten smaller, and it's just, or maybe I've just gotten bigger. I don't know. That's what I wonder sometimes. I think the food at fast food places has gotten smaller.
You know, I'll give you one real quick
It's
before we go
probably a
back
good
to
thing.
topic. All right, as far
Okay.
as time edit, my
Mhm.
sister is about 17 years older than I.
Mhm.
And she's really good at memory on everything she experienced, especially in childhood, like different things. And something she had mentioned, that's what all my siblings older than I, we were sitting there, and she says why she stopped watching the Flintstones. And she said, I just hated it when Barney Rubble got that bomb, and the bomb went off and his eyes were like dangling. Then after that, he only had slits for eyes. I quit watching it then.
What?
And my brothers sit up there and they go, what? That never, I remember the Flintstones. That never happened. I was looking at her. I said, I don't remember that either. And she goes, look at it. Don't you remember? Barney used to have eyes. Then the bomb exploded and he just had these slits. And so I looked it up because he's really good with stuff like that. And sure enough, there's a reason why he didn't have slits anymore, but it wasn't a bomb. It was something between Hanna-Barbera and somebody else went on, and they changed his eyes from being like, first he had eyes, then he had these black circles, and then he just had these slits. Yeah, but my sister swears it was this bomb episode.
Whoa.
And she's good enough with that. I think that's one of those time edits right there.
Yeah.
Because my brothers don't remember. My oldest brother, he's 18 years, almost 19 years older than me. He was sitting there. He didn't remember it. My other brother's 12 years older than me. He didn't remember it.
There's weirder stuff that's happened for sure. And that's what, Arkeem was on the show a couple weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. And he said that, as a time soldier from Montauk, working at Montauk, he said that we're talking about how history could be erased and all that kind of, he said, well, that was their job. That's what the Montauk program was all about, really. A lot of it was changing history, going back and switching things. And I mean, these time edits, and I don't think, especially the general public, has no idea how affected we've been by all this time travel and time editing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, ultimately, I can say, all that lies with Andrew Basago. Honestly, all that talk, Montauk, all that starts with Basago. And when you start dealing with like real time technologies and things, and how much of this becomes consciously people experiencing this, and it's being induced.
Yeah.
by you know what I mean? It's very interesting to me, but that's one of the main ones there, because when you start actually looking deep in time science, that it's transparent.
Yeah.
Some of that stuff doesn't hold up. Yeah. Just saying. Well, some of it is more science fiction, more fantasy than real time science. Mm-hmm. I'm just throwing that up. People that have read like Tipler's books or looked into real time science like that, mm-hmm. Some things are, I'm not saying it's not true, Jessica, so I don't want to piss anybody off, but I'm saying that there's holes that don't hold up scientifically with that whole deal. But
it's good to look at it from every angle.
Like, for example, Project Looking Glass, I will agree with that one. And I would definitely agree with the chronovisor in terms of I've been on board a craft that I think was a chronovisor that I showed a show I was on recently where those Nordic cats, that window in that ship, I think that would be a
Yeah.
chronovisor that's used by historians that are timeline monitors, like a
Yes.
temporal incursion commission. So I'm not dismissing all of it, but sometimes the stuff that we hear trying to sort out, because we got to face it, in this field, there's a lot of things that come in there, people that are, first of all, just plain liars. Okay, you've got the others that are completely delusional, okay, and mentally ill. This field is like a flock for those people with mental illness, okay? And you've got those others that are plants. So trying to use discernment between those three groups is not always easy.
Well, and then we got the media too, okay, making up stuff. And I just wanted to read an article real quick, okay? And you're right, Barry. I see it as well. But I know there's a lot of
tirade. Sorry
but
about that.
But everything is so confusing for me at this point because there's so much going on, and so there's some truth to some of this too, Barry. Okay,
It's kind of like trying to get a good picture now. You got to put it to the AI scanner. Picture's not AI.
Oh my gosh, I know. Can we even trust the AI scanners at this point? Probably not. Okay, but anyways, okay. So back in 2017, I thought this was more recent, right? Let's get back to Justin Bieber and the reptilian shapeshifters, okay? Because back in 2017, there was articles that were coming out. People were really upset. They said that there were over 100 people that said that they were at I believe this was at a concert. Let's see. Ooh, let me see if I got a picture here. I'm going to show it to the crowd. This was supposed to be a screenshot right here, and there's a video. You can find it online.
This is 2018, you said?
2017. Okay, this is wild. Look, it just looks like his face is a little distorted, and there's an actual video that goes with it, but this is just a screenshot that I got off of YouTube. This has millions and millions of views, though. Okay, it says that he was on it's called the Purpose World Tour. He shapeshifted into a giant reptile, complete with gross colored scales, in front of hundreds of terrified fans. His head shrunk. This is a quote. His head shrunk, and his eyes went black, and a black stripe down the middle. With a black stripe down the middle. He grew a few feet taller and had gross colored scales all over his body. It happened so fast, but when everyone saw it and started screaming and crying, a lot of people were running for the exits. They included a source in this. It was a local skater, but this was an eyewitness. Let me tell you what he said. He said he was hanging around with this big guy, his bodyguards, I guess, and we were just staring because he kept turning into a huge reptile. And this is in BuzzFeed. Okay, his bodyguard was pointing at us, shouting that he'd kick our teeth in if we didn't put our phones away. Okay. Now it goes on. Also, there's more. Okay. So that was in 2017. Okay, and at some point, I think it was more recent that he had this whole incident where he allegedly his eyes. So in this photo shoot right here, not the photo shoot, but when he was having a meeting with with the judge, they said that his eyes were going into slits. You could see his pupils turning into slits. Okay, that was that case. Okay, so in 2019, let's see, is this the one where he was at the airport? This is at the airport. Okay, maybe the first one was at the airport. Yeah, because he was in Australia. This was at the airport. He was in Australia and shapeshifted into a giant reptile. They said that he kept turning into a reptile. There were girls hiding in the toilets in the bathroom, crying. Guys were running for the exits, jumping into taxis to get out of there. Okay, so this is like he has been seen shapeshifting into a reptilian. Okay, and there allegedly have been hundreds of people that have seen this. I mean, I've heard of multiple people at concerts, like artists shapeshifting, Barry, and I know to the majority of people in the world, they're like, "Y'all are crazy. This is made up." Do you think this is possible? Could this be? I mean, do you think that some of our performers could potentially be shapeshifting reptilians? This is a serious question.
Keep going. Yes, I know you got more information. Keep going.
Yeah, no. I was just asking. This is a serious question because like it's not
Oh,
just these performers.
oh.
You know, there was a woman. Let's talk about this next lady, okay?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
somebody in the
Go on,
chat,
go on.
someone in
You
the
know, but
chat had said her name.
I will tell you one thing. Okay, it's interesting because spirit messes with me a lot. Okay, before we were doing this show, before I logged on
Okay.
here, I kept getting this coming out of nowhere. That remember that game, Skate or Die, and it was.
No,
I kept hearing that, and you're saying that this thing about him came from this big
he was a
account came
skater.
from some skater.
Mhm.
That's just very interesting to me. But please keep going about this lady and what year was
Yeah.
this and
Well,
what happened.
this right here was there's a video going around about this woman now, and I don't know if it was Truth Warrior that put her name out there, Jeanette Archer. There it is. Dan's got it. Dan lives in the UK. Okay, there was a woman, I believe her name was Jeanette Archer. Okay, because that's the name that they're putting in the chat. I didn't know her name. Okay, so thank you guys. I believe this is her name, and she had a speaker and a microphone, and she was standing out on a street corner or at a park in England. Okay, probably in London for all I know, but she was saying that she had taken part when she was a kid. She was abused and took part in some sort of rituals that the she said Queen Elizabeth is what she said, and her husband. She said that they regularly would shapeshift and perform rituals on her and other children. Okay, this is for entertainment purposes only, everyone. It's a horrible thing for us to have to talk about today, but it is. I'm not saying any of this is true. Okay, YouTube. But anyways, there is a video going around with her giving eyewitness testimony on this, and she said she actually was saying that the queen would come out as the queen, as a normal human, and then she would she would look at the little girl and make her stare at her while she would shapeshift into a reptile. She said that Prince Philip, I believe, this is all hearsay. Okay, but this is what this woman testified, saying that Prince Philip would already be a reptilian when he came out for the ceremonies that they would do, the rituals, and it was pretty terrifying. And they were talking about blood rituals and all that kind of stuff were going on. But that is not uncommon to hear about with the royal family. Okay, I've been hearing for decades that they are reptilians. Okay, and whether that is true or not, I don't know
You
for
hear
sure.
about all the blue bloods.
All the blue bloods, right? Is that
Most
why
of
they're
the
called blue bloods?
how many in those blue bloods are born with tails? Several of them, isn't it?
With tails? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Have you never heard that?
No.
Because I know that Icky did his. Sorry, I got clowned for mispronouncing that man's name.
David Icke. Ike. Yes, I
could
say
give
Ike.
damn less, but okay,
Right.
Ike, Wiki, Dicky. I really don't care. But look, but here's the thing. All right, he had his own thing about about reptilians, but he got together with Credo Mutua, and he's the one to put Credo really on the map.
Really?
As far as North America goes, definitely. I'd heard of Credo, but I was only hearing it through the brothers that were these Muslim brothers that at the African American bookstore. Anyway.
Oh wow.
But they got together, so they both matching that up. And Credo had spoken a lot about how the blue bloods and some of them were born with these tails, like certain type of Draco, and how that's just one of the things goes on. So and I think a little bit about what's her name that died, Princess Diane, and what she was saying. Remember she got out there and said there's all a bunch of reptiles. I know that definitely fuels that quite a bit. So when you start dealing with those type of bloodlines, I wouldn't doubt it at all, and I don't dismiss that at all. And I think there's other extraterrestrials we're dealing with that might be way worse than these reptiles that everyone talks about all the time. And I think a lot of them are non-corporeal, and they're very, very dangerous as far as our natural predators. And they eat go ahead and say the word. You know what they eat?
Humans?
Well, that too.
Yeah.
Well, according to Credo, definitely some of the reptilian side, but no, the the negative organic
Loosh.
radiation, DR, deadly organic or orgone radiation, or negative psychokinetic energy. I prefer those terms, but you go ahead and do your Jolly Rancher name.
You like the loosh. You know the word loosh. That just sums up like you. That's just the easy way to say it. Loosh. Yeah, that's the way I know it. But yeah, they okay. Well, Dan says her coffin was draped with the flag of the dragon. You can look it up. And yeah, there have been multiple reports.
Which one? The Queen
Elizabeth.
The Queen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's.
So who are all the reptilians supposed to be? It's supposed to be the royal house, right? The monarchs and all them. What, the Rockefellers? And who are the others? Who are the others? I know everybody in there should know it. I know William Cooper talked about it too, but they're these famous names. The Vanderburgers or Vanderbergs, they're one, isn't it?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Oh, come on, Jones.
I don't keep up with the blue bloods. Okay, I try to keep them out of my energy. I'm too busy looking up Justin Bieber. Okay, and stuff. I ain't got time for that. I'm just kidding. The Melissa says the Vanderbilts.
So do you feel, real quick? One question for me, real quick. Do you feel that a lot of these celebrities that have had this, like him, going on, are like these blue bloodlines, or they just get seduced by the social media, by the Hollywood thing? Is that what did it? I've heard questions like years ago.
Okay.
I know somebody that did some work on Leonardo DiCaprio because he had got hexed by somebody, by a hoodoo priestess in Hollywood, so it was said. And at that time, I was told, like, if you go on Hollywood there, you could go to your local corner and catch a hoodoo practitioner of some type. Might still be going on now. And they were putting hexes on people. And he had one put on him. And the person I was talking to said they helped get it off. So, make of that what you will. Yeah.
Well, if someone told me one day there's a very thin line between a musician and a magician, and Dennis and I were talking about that on Monday. There's, witchcraft and all sorts of magic with the K runs very deep within the Hollywood circles. Okay. And even the blood sacrifices and things like that. We were actually talking about the deception of, recycled celebrities and people faking their deaths, or potentially them being immortal vampires. As wild as that sounds, we're looking through historical pictures, and some with AI today, we don't know what's real and what's not when it comes down to it. But it would appear that there are people who look exactly like our, famous celebrities today that were living centuries ago. Okay, centuries. So, well, were they related? Is this fake? I mean, I don't think it's all AI. I mean, there's actual, proof of who those historical figures were. They were royalty. A lot of times.
See, that gets touchy because people want to talk about some of that and not the other part of it, especially when it comes to melanin dominant individuals. And no one likes to talk about how Akhenaten had amazing resemble to both Scottie Pippen and especially Barack Obama.
I saw that.
No one wants to talk about that, though.
I would have brought it up if I'd thought about it.
Like that, people get mad though, because it's like it's a black thing, so they don't want to talk about that.
Oh no, listen, I would love it.
And Bieber's.
You're right though, and so you got to wonder, like, okay, is it just? Let me rewind a little bit, because you were asking about the bloodlines, okay, and the blue bloods. Well, if you go back and you do your research, which I have only done research as far as my family goes, I know where my bloodlines have led, who I'm descended from. Okay. And they got those shows where they do those ancestries, right? And it's like they show you the family trees of a lot of the famous people, and all of the presidents are related. All of the presidents of the United States are cousins to some degree. Okay. All of them the celebrities, a lot of them are cousins.
Yeah.
Politicians are related to the celebrities. There is something in these bloodlines. It is a bloodline tradition, whatever this is. Now, blue bloods, maybe they're all, a lot of them, they've got to be descended from some sort of blue blood, family lineage. I think they don't have to be, but I think most of them are. And maybe they are reptilian bloodlines. I mean, why not? We look into, and I don't know how far back this goes. Okay, I have no idea, but I'm noticing, I'm doing my research, and we're doing these remote viewing charts where we're seeing our history has been covered up, like ancient history. A lot of it is not what we've been taught, especially about the United States. The Tartarian Empire. Where's that? Who's covering all this stuff up? Who is keeping us distracted and stopping us from looking into it? It's these people that are in these bloodlines, right? It's all of our celebrities. We're sitting here chasing circles around whether or not Justin Bieber turned into a reptilian, okay? Because it's Justin Bieber. It's Justin Bieber. He's making videos right now. The public is so worried about him because he's got a drug problem or something. I don't know what's going on with him right now, okay? But it's like, I'm sorry. I hope he gets help, okay? But don't we have more important things to we need to focus on ourselves, y'all. We need to focus on us. We got enough to worry about, y'all, with ourselves.
Argument with me for me on that.
You know what I mean? But it's effectively keeping the public distracted. Okay. And like I said, there's a thin line between a musician and a magician. I think Caleb had said that, was in the chat one day. A very thin line. And so we have to be aware of that. We wear that. But there is a connection. Most of our very most prominent, famous people, from politicians to actors and actresses, musicians, they're all related in some way. I remember watching something where Hillary Clinton was talking about her being related to Madonna. Okay. And I don't know. You go down and you look at their family trees.
You can stretch that. I don't know how far. I mean, you've got, what's name? I was just recently watching one of those. And what's her name? Not Faye Dunaway. The other actress, not Faye Dunaway, but right up there with her. I don't
know actresses very well.
Oh, sorry. Anyway, she's related to the Mexican chick. They were both doing this thing with Dr. Gates, and turns out they're like cousins in there. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you her name either, but God, what was the lady's name? I mean, she's still alive. She's really, really famous. She looks like Faye Dunaway. They resemble each other. I keep wanting to say Sophia Loren, but that's not her name.
Selma Hayek? I don't know. She's young.
No, that's the Hispanic lady. Isn't her either. Mendez. Okay. Eva Mendez was the Hispanic lady. Okay. But she's related to this lady who's, I mean, she's like one of the most famous actresses there is right now. They're still alive.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of something she'd been. Anyway, I guess it doesn't matter. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, it's just showing a pattern of like people. A lot of the people who are famous are related to all the other people who are famous in some way. But especially politicians and stuff. Okay. It's really cool. If you guys ever trace your family trees back to as far as you can go, it is fascinating. My uncles and my dad's first cousins have all done it. And, it was pretty shocking who all I get to be related to as well, actually. So,
oh yeah, what's going on?
Yeah,
who is it?
Pretty cool. Who, me?
Yeah.
I've got a lot of interesting relations. I'm not gonna get into it today. One of the more prominent though is Mary Dyer. Okay, who was I think she was in Massachusetts, maybe, or Connecticut. I am actually I'm her granddaughter, and she was actually, I believe, she was hung for religious persecution back in the day because she was I think she was a Quaker or something. I don't know, but she would not renounce her, her religion, her Christianity. It actually took it. They say that she was actually partially responsible for the whole freedom of religion that we have in the United States today. And I just found it was kind of cool. Like it's y'all can look her up. Look up Mary Dyer. Okay, that's one of my grandmothers. So, but yeah, it goes back deeper than that. I'm also a granddaughter of one of the Viking kings. Okay, so there's that side as well. But anyways, disclosure is now. Okay, and so could Justin Bieber and Miley Cyrus be brother and sister? Maybe. Could
I mean,
because
those two did
maybe.
look quite similar, but if you go all the way back, people have always said, everyone has a twin. And if you travel far enough, you'll meet them. So it's interesting looking at that.
Or
I
a
used to have
clone.
I used to be told all the time, that when I was younger that I looked like Gregory Hines. Used to drive me crazy in high school. I got told that all the time. So I tell you, if that's the case, if I was a clone of Gregory Hines, I'd be having a whole other career. I'd be out dancing, kicking it hard, man. That's ridiculous. But
That's
people
awesome.
often have to associate, somebody looking like somebody else. It's just one of those things, which is natural, I guess.
Yeah, that's true too. That's true. It could just be that people look a lot alike, and especially with makeup and everything, you can definitely. I mean, some people get plastic surgery to look like famous people, right? I mean, that happens a lot. There's a whole lot of BBLs going down right now for you get a nice butt, look like Kim Kardashian or something. I don't know why people do that, but anyways,
Oh boy.
yeah.
I've
Okay,
heard everything about her. She's an inner earth queen. She's a
reptilian. She dressed up like a
reptile. And
reptilian for Halloween.
she deliberately wore that Halloween deal, so that confirmed it for everybody. It wasn't really a
She
matter
was
of
like an
really.
albino crocodile or something.
Oh
It's like
gosh.
she was just showing her true form. Okay, that's what she was doing. Oh man! But speaking of showing your true form, and speaking of lineages and things like that, King Charles. We used to be Prince Charles. Now he's King Charles. He lives in Vlad the Impaler. Isn't that Count Dracula right there? He is a direct descendant of Vlad. Okay, this is the who. What? Why are
He
you
also
laughing,
looks
Barry?
like
It's the truth.
what my mother always used to point out is that he also looks like Ted Koppel
He does look like Ted
and
Koppel.
also Alfred E. Newman. Do you know who that is?
Sausage fingers. No, yes, I do. I do. I'm reading some of these comments. I'm sorry. The comments are good today. Okay, and well, he actually lives in his castle now. King Charles lives in that castle, or he did at some point. And there's a lot of weird stuff surrounding that as well, because he was supposed to be a vampire, right? And I believe what he did, he would to ward people off. It seems like he would like decapitate people and put their heads on sticks all around his castle and stuff. But anyways, let's just say vampire. Let's use the word vampire. All right, and there's we can't help what our ancestors did, right? I mean, when it comes to vampirism, I don't know. That sounds like a terrible statement, right? But he really embraces it. He really embraces it. King Charles does. Okay, from what I've been told, what I understand, what I've read, and so it makes you think, especially with all the rumors going around about them being reptilians and dealing with the whole blood stuff. Okay, if you know what I mean. Okay, so I guess where we're kind of going with this now is the testimony of that woman who was talking about how she had been in rituals with the royal family and had actually seen with her eyes, with her whole being, had seen them shape-shifting and doing, bad things to kids and all that kind of stuff. And so I don't want to say it's a cult, but it kind of is when it comes to the elite and whatnot. This is something that I'm not really excited about showing. I think I'm probably not going to show the picture, but there's something called the Red Shoe Club. I don't want to really get into that, but it's where a lot of elite guys are in this like cult kind of, and they show off their red shoes. And some people say that that's actually, those shoes are they're kind of showing them off because those are made from the skin of the people. Let's just say the little people that they have sacrificed. Okay. And so that's something that's, I don't really want to talk about that today, but it's a thing. Okay. And the word cannibalism has been coming up a lot in my research doing this, Barry. And that's kind of segueing into that. This is your time to shine now. We're going to talk about cannibalism.
No, it just hit me. Meryl Streep.
Yes.
That's that actress.
Oh, okay.
Meryl Streep and like Eva Mendes. They're cousins.
Yes.
And was found out on Gate. Dr. Gates does that show on PBS once a week.
Oh God.
Louis Gates Foundation. He does all the ancestry between people, and they happen to be guests on an episode, and it turns out that they were like cousins. And it's funny because Mendez always says, "Well, or is it Eva Longoria? It's one of those two. And she says, "Oh, Meryl Streep's really Mexican." So,
You want to hear something that's even more funny? I've got another connection. Okay, this is going to be, it's actually really funny. So when people are doing like the side-by-side comparisons of actors, it could be clones of each other. Sometimes they change the gender, sometimes they can change the race, they say. And Meryl Streep is supposed to be Future, the rapper. I know it's weird. Future, the rapper from Atlanta, Future. Okay. He and Meryl Streep look just alike.
I see pictures of that one, man.
I can pull it up. It's hilarious. I'm sorry, but that's funny that's who that is, because I actually had a picture to show on Monday and I didn't show it because I was like, this is a little weird. But you brought her up, so that's another recycled celebrity allegedly. So yeah, okay.
But some of this stuff that we hear, like Elvis is still alive and such, that guy would be like how old right now? And the lifestyle he was living, come on. There's little things, like some of these things I just don't buy. I'm very skeptical of a lot of things, but when we get some things that's like more solid, like I remember when one of the more convincing videos that came out years ago now, it was the one with Michael Jackson where his eyes turned black. I can't remember which video it was, but it was the first one to really hit, where his eyes turned black like twice during these two scenes, and it was it looked to be more than just camera trickery. You know what I mean? So a couple of things like that. So I don't want to seem like I'm dismissive of everything, but as far as some of the fantasy that goes into this, I need some sort of substance that says more than these guys just aren't these Hollywood messed up people like everybody else that are really messed up in that industry, as opposed to being all these clones. And some of them are doing dark magic and all that stuff coming up, and the child problem in there, obviously, that's been brought to light by several individuals now that were famous when you and I were younger. Cats like all the Coreys and all those cats, even the person I thought that was immune from most of that, Will Wheaton. Will Wheaton's got some stuff in his past too. His mom, some abuse, some hardcore stuff. So it's I'm talking about Wesley. Well, I'm sorry, you don't follow that stuff. That's Wesley Crusher from Star Trek. He still does stuff affiliated with the Star Trek world, and he's really cool, actually. But you would know who he is. Stand By Me. He was one of the kids walking with River Phoenix.
Yeah,
Jerry.
I love that movie.
Somebody else who didn't make it, River Phoenix. He didn't make it, did he?
That's right. Well, there could be clones of him running around. Could definitely be clones running around. And Andrew says, not everyone on Earth is human, and not every human has a soul. I'm learning that. I actually was considering kind of switching the show up today and doing a show on NPCs today. Okay, non-playable characters, I think is what that stands for. And all the people that are kind of put out there just to throw us off path, get in our way, stop us from doing what we're here to do. Okay. And that's the whole other thing. And Barry, you've actually done videos on that. You've done a lot of research on NPCs before. So,
here's the thing. You can address that from two different aspects. And I know that's become popularized by Dolores Cannon and her work. All right. But when it comes to this, you have first those that may be holographic, as they say, and people that aren't really here with us, but they appear to be through hologram. But then you've got something else. You've got those beings that walk around our field of awareness, but are masked by our cognitive dissonance and cognitive bias. In which case, I'm saying, I just did a video, a live that you moderated for me. Thank you. And I was talking about actually the way that I and a lot of people see the energy field. How it is about 6 feet or more outside of a person's physical body, and it has certain shape, which is normally it's been called the luminous cocoon by those that study Toltec and Castaneda. But in the middle of it is this thing called the assemblage point, and that's where the universe flows through and where we assemble this world, so to describe. Okay. So when you start seeing that that's the general energy field of people, okay, And then you start being able to see, and then you start seeing individuals who are in a crowd of people who don't have an energy configuration like that. It's completely different. A triangle or some sort of a obtuse structure, you know what I mean? And weird, weird energy on it. Those are not people. And they normally come in twos.
Wow.
Like they might be on the first time I saw it, it was these two people sitting on the bus. It was just sitting there like everybody else, but they didn't have the energy configuration of people when you start really seeing them. Okay. But yet when I stop actually stopping of the eyes, when you stop the eyes, that energy has to find another pathway, which is the third eye. Okay. That's why stop techniques with the eyes or looking techniques are really useful. But when you actually see that, then you're not using that stop technique anymore. I'm seeing just two individuals sitting there. They seem kind of weird, but you wouldn't think these aren't like humans walking around here. And how many entities that are in our field of awareness all the time that we don't perceive correctly? They jump in our dreams all the time, and they mask behind phantasmagorical images. A lot of times objects you don't that don't go with the setting of the dream, or the worst ones, the hostile ones, show up as people you love. How many times you've had somebody in your dream, on your ASS? You're like, God, what's wrong with them? Yeah. Getting you flared up. You know what I mean? They're feeding. That's the whole thing going on. It's real serious. But we can't see that because they're masking themselves in phantasmagorical images, our own brain impulses. It's a trip, man. Sorry, no Cody, man, but it's a trip.
Well, no, I say man and dude all the time to everybody. Okay, what's up, dude? But that's true, and so it's even in our dream state. Okay, there's loosh is being extracted from our energy fields, even in the dream state, even in the astral, right, Barry?
Yes.
Gosh.
Yes.
How do we protect against that?
It starts with verbal intent and having to use your force of your intent of will. How do we really do that, though? We can sum it up. You can be like, kind of like when the guy on the train on the movie Ghost showed Patrick Swayze how to actually affect things physically. He's, man, you don't got no body anymore, man. You got to come from the gut. Remember that? It's kind of like that. But for us, we have to realize that our imagination very much activates our intent of will as well. And we're not taught that. And unless you're an artist or something, most of the time when you're younger, people telling you're told not. How many of us, I bet you there's a bunch of people right now in your audience, including you, that had imaginary friends when you were a kid, but you could really see them. And some of them had names and they would come and go. And then when you got older, you're not really seeing that. It's your imagination. People will say you're crazy. So people start getting, their perception gets molded out of that. I'm convinced that when a baby is first slapped on the butt or whatever, and they do that first thing they do is scream. I don't think it's just from the pain. I think it's from they're still in the celestial, and when they actually open their eyes, they see the gross density of this place, and they go, "Oh my God!
No, put me back in.
Yeah,
put me back inside,
it's traumatizing as heck." And then people start goo goo gaga or whatever, and you start molding. Your perception starts molding, adjusting to this. But I think at first it's a nightmare at first when you birth into this thing. It's very painful, often like going out of it. Anyway, sorry, that's neither here nor there. We're supposed to be talking about Justin Bieber and monkeys. I'm sorry, lizards.
Lizards.
Yeah.
Not monkeys, lizards. Okay, lizard people. Okay, monkey people be like Sasquatch kind of. Okay. We're talking about lizards today, and Queen Lizzie herself. Okay, I think that's how she got that nickname. But yeah, we bounty hunting bear. We are constantly a walking dinner plate. Well, Barry, I don't know if I guess you would agree with this. We are not the top of the food chain.
No, not at all. And we're so arrogant though. We think we don't have any natural predators. On the last show I was on with you, and on my live, I talked about something, and I talked about it with Soretta too, because these people that can see, when you can actually see that energy field of a baby, of an infant, they have not just that luminous glow that's way beyond their body, but they have this. It's like a sheen around it, like a coating.
Oh, wow.
This beautiful coating. But then when I see adults and I look at adults, or even by the time the kid is like probably 16, 17, you look at them, maybe even 15, you look at them and you still see the luminous glow, that cocoon, but you don't see that coat anymore, that shiny coat. It's just maybe at the bottom of their legs, around the calves where we hold a lot of our memories, or a little bit lower, even just the ankles. Well, why? It's because there's these predators flaring the emotions of the individual, eating the whole time on that sheen. That's the first thing that those predators eat. And they're very real. They're the ones that cause the voices that seem to be disembodied, voices in our minds, make us think it's schizophrenia, our own negative self, because we all got that. Then we get some trauma, you get negative identities. They come right on in, go for the heart chakra, start making you doubt yourself, telling you a bunch of crap. You know what I mean? It's a trip. You're losing your own voice. So you can't tell it's not yours. You think, these are my thoughts. They're not all your thoughts. Some of them are externally influenced. And that's the beginning of this thing that Credo would talk about, how these reptilians lock on to the sex chakra and other things psychically and project themselves in terms of a holographic way of possessing us through those chakras, those energy centers. Sorry,
I just got that. Never apologize, Barry. That's wonderful that you're bringing all this up. I was actually getting a flash of that clip of it's like a man walking down a dark street one night, and somebody came up to rob him and hit him, and I think he hit him, and then the guy, I don't know if he went down on the ground, but something came out of his body. It was almost like a hologram of like a dark entity came out and attacked the guy who was attacking him. And I'm wondering if it didn't seem like that was CGI. That looked kind of real. Okay.
Doesn't that bring up an interesting question?
Yeah. Brings up a lot of questions.
Okay, one is this. I ask you this. One is, when you describe that, what do you have? Do you have evil battling evil? Or do you have something that's more of the angelic realm that is sent here? And when we start dealing with that, the angels that come here to fight the demon, the darks, what do they really like? Are these cats in sandals with bows, or are they creatures as
that's a great point.
as those that they're coming to assassinate?
Yes.
Okay?
I mean, I would think that the angels are not going to be, all angelic with, angel wings and beautiful angelic, baby faces and all that stuff. I would think that God would send down his fiercest warriors into battle down here, and they're not going to look like what you think. Okay, they're going to be pretty terrifying, I would think. But I don't know. That brings up a wonderful question. I mean, I don't know. To me, knowing what I know about attachments, I felt like that was probably something that was just attached to that man. I got more of a darker vibe to it, of course. Because, maybe the guy had been in my mind, the guy had been to a bar and was drinking or something. Maybe he was a little intoxicated, and something was kind of controlling him a little bit. When people get blackout drunk, they do things. They don't remember it. They don't remember what they did.
Remember what I told you? That's not even going to the demonic. I don't want to repeat myself. I said, like, oh no, this Barry and it's the same story. But remember, when I talked about one of the first Earthbounds really giving me static that I was trying to cross over, he was saying that he wouldn't go into light, and I was trying to trick him. I said, why? Well, I can't get another drink in there. And then they told me that they jumped a client at this bar and said, well, they said when they walked in, they come by the jukebox. That's my area. And so I jumped them. They're bright. They're not really having a good time, but they weren't like the other people in there. The people that were all burned out, like it's like a Cheers bar, a real little bar. Okay. And say basically, I said, wait, you jumped all them and wore them out? Oh yeah. And then they're a bunch of drunks too. And it says, but they jumped them, said, but when I wanted to show them how to have another drink. And when they died, Jessica, that was their thing. They're trying to get back to the bar to have another drink for last call, and they died on the street out there trying to get over there. So they always go back to the bar, to their house, to the bar, and they jumped this client and then said, well, they had social anxiety, why they were like that. The spirit didn't know that. And then said, but then when I get them to drink so much that they black out, because boy, they can really put them away.
Yeah.
And then when I get them so drunk that they black out, that's when I feel the most alive.
Oof.
And then he starts
saying, enough to make you not want to drink.
It doesn't last as long as it used to.
Yeah.
So
Oh my
then they
God. It's
start
like
telling them,
an
listen, they
addiction.
start telling them, hurt your boyfriend, hurt your girlfriend, hurt these people because they don't like them. You know what I
Oh
mean?
my
So hurt
God.
them. And
Yes.
generating all that stuff you're talking about. And that's just earthbound spirits. This is not a demon I'm talking about. I've had them tell me that. They'll say, hey, well, I said, well, why do you want to hurt each other? Because I don't like those other people. And then there's the others that come in the body and they make me do it. They tell me to do it, or they're going to hurt
Yeah.
me, or they're going to send me to the pit. What's the
Mhm.
pit? I don't know, but they say it's worse than this place. And that's just the concept they're playing on our concept of hell and hell, heaven and hell. Whether they can do that or not is a different subject, but it doesn't matter because we're still trying to function through the brain as disincarnate
Oh,
earthbound spirits. This stuff is serious we're talking about right
it's
now. And
very
I
serious.
don't want anybody in your group, in your audience, to get trapped by any of this stuff.
Mhm.
So the last thoughts and the things we have as we're about to pass is important. Each one of these past life regressions I do, it's always the same thing. No matter what the person goes through, Jessica, if it's at this place of translation reconfiguration, whether it's a pond, an office, a library, whatever it is, it's always about their choices in life and how the intent behind them and how they impacted the others, everyone else. And I experienced that when I died. I thought I was kind of heavy and spiritual, but the truth is, man, I greatly underestimated the impact that our relationships have on each other and how that's really what goes with us and what we come here
Wow.
to learn. Sorry, we're supposed to talk
Wow.
about Justin Bieber and
No.
reptilians again.
Oh, we're going to get back to that in just a second. Okay. But I, I'm usually kind of hesitant to talk about, I don't ever talk about my private life. Okay. I try not to. And, but I can relate to what you're talking about. Okay. Because, I have had to, and these are lessons that I've learned. I've learned a lot of lessons over my lifetime, y'all, a lot more than the average Joe or Jessica. Okay. And so what I have learned is that I cannot be around people with addictions. Okay. I can't because everyone that I have, oh God, I shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Everyone that I have been around, and I used to go out and have fun, party all the time back when I was young. Okay. And but there came a point where like I knew I needed to grow up, it's time to get married and have a kid and all that kind of stuff. And I did. And but there were still people around me and that didn't grow up, let's just say. And by grow up I just mean like clean up, clean up and function like what we're taught to be is like a grown adult, right? And the people that have had addictions around me I have watched as dark entities will, and this is serious, I've watched dark entities jump from person to person and the people closest to me who have one form of addiction or another, and they always try to destroy my life. They try to come at me, and they don't just try, they do. They come at me. And it's the only way because I'm not on that frequency, but the people around me are. So I have had to distance myself from just about everybody I know. At this point in my life, my circle is as small as a Cheerio, as they say in some song I listened to the other day. It's tiny because I can't afford to be around people who are on a lower frequency that are susceptible to being possessed by lower frequency entities, I guess you can call it.
I'm glad you brought that up. And I think it's worth saying this, okay? Because you're a good person. I've gotten to know you pretty well now, but I sensed that on you before we even met in person. You're a good person, okay? You got a
Thank
good
you,
heart
Barry.
and stuff. And what they use is a strategy on you that they're using right now they use on everybody, but I noticed especially because it's kind of creepy how women are becoming so aware right now because y'all will deal with your crap before us men that get trapped in machismo. And the
Oh
amount of
God, yeah.
clients I have that are women right now is overwhelming to men in terms of y'all are stepping up quicker. So the attack on y'all is different. And what they use is they use someone, your loved one. Same they do as a dreamscape. They pretend to be your loved one, but they get into your loved one that doesn't know how to protect themselves, and
Right.
they attack you, and they immediately go for the heart chakra, right
Yep.
when they the heart center when they go through. And what happens is that the person that you're dealing with or your loved one, if they don't know how to protect themselves, they have any type of addiction thing, and
Mhm.
even those of us know how to protect ourselves, we got to do it a couple times a day. It's no joke
Correct.
down here. This is
Mm-mm.
predatorial heaven down here, man. And it's hard to remember even to do that several times a day for all of us. But for people that
Yeah.
don't even have a concept of this, It's so hard just to pay our bills, to raise the kids, to go to school, to do all these different things. That takes maximum output. And so that, to remember to have to protect yourself like that. But that was used on you. And I feel it's been used on a lot of people in the audience right now. They used your loved ones to attack your heart center. And it's weird because for people like me and you that really know how to shield ourselves, what they do is, I've said this before, so I don't want to talk too much repeated, but this is important because these things feast on trapped emotions. Okay. And what they do is they hit your shields from these different deals. Like this is the Enterprise, you've got the Klingons all around, like 4 or 5 of them bombarding it. And what it does is it collapses and creates just these little cracks in our shields. Not a full shield meltdown or malfunction, just these little cracks. And that's just enough for them to get in and go for the heart chakra. Just enough.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's just something to be aware of. And, in that way, I've said this before, there's so much trauma on this planet. You get trauma and the trauma stores in our organs. There's charts people can look up.
Yes.
Physical charts, what energy, what emotions store in what body parts. That's where earthbound spirits attach. It's where demonic attach. It's just how it goes. There's enough trauma. As soon as you incarnate here, trauma walks around down here like a member of the population.
It does.
So you know what I mean? And so there's negative thing,
Yeah.
It feeds into us and it stops us from being magical beings. I've asked you before, Jessica, how come people aren't magical? We should be. With our cognitive abilities, with our spiritual energy, with our physical energy, we should be magical. And yet we're not. Why are some Sasquatch kind of magical? People don't want to deal with that. We could just call them spiritual powers. But the truth, anyway, sorry.
Yeah. No, you're right. And some people are very magical, but let me tell you, if you guys want to get the lowdown with kind of where I was going with that, with what I was talking about with myself, I do talk about these things on the Hunt Club, on my membership tab over on YouTube. I'd get into spiritual talks and about my story and what I've been through, and it's to help anyone who feels guided to listen to what I have to say, because I've been through so much, and I do talk about it on that Hunt Club membership thing. I don't talk about it publicly because not every, if you're here to listen about Dogman and Bigfoot, you don't want to hear what I have to say probably over there so much, unless you're guided to do that. But I do talk about these things, and it's not only addictions and stuff that I have to worry about. People with those, it's just, and I don't mean it in any kind of way. I don't want anybody to feel like I'm putting anybody down that has an addiction. I'm not whatsoever. But it's unresolved trauma. Let's just say that. Maybe that's a better way to say it, because it's unresolved trauma in any type of way. And we all have unresolved trauma in one way or another, but some of it goes deeper than others. And there are people who are very unhealed. And it's the people that are very unhealed that I've had to learn, bless everybody's hearts. I have to keep my distance from that, because I see like how in a blink of an eye and the snap of a finger, things can go south. Sometimes when they're around me, I don't know what it is. It's my energy. I don't know what I do to people, but I am very polarizing to people. I am. And you get in my energy field and you're around me, you're either going to love me or you're going to want to unalive me. Is what it is. And that's the truth. I don't know what it is. I'm nothing but nice to everybody, but I protect myself too. And I know who to stay away from. So, there are people that have been in my lives, even people that have been on my shows and stuff. There's times where I have to cut people off, and I will not answer calls. I won't talk, because I know like there's something there's just something that is telling me I got to stay away from these people.
Well, as your friend and as somebody that can see, I can see. No, I'm not a remote viewer, but I can see this. And I tell you, you've been targeted since birth, probably before. And they put people in your path to try to destroy you. They've made other attempts, sending weird cats with black eyes to your crib. All sorts of stuff has gone on for them to stop you from doing what you're doing right now. Everything was designed from that. Right now, you just, there's some people attacking people right now. Everybody in these communities, especially SSP, and they're using a certain technology to do it. And they're really putting people down. Boy, they're perfect people, but these other people they're attacking. And, it's terrible that's what this whole thing is coming to. And you're holding a certain frequency, and certain people resonate with you only. The others, it's going to cause hatred, anger, jealousy.
It's like a glitch out.
Yogananda talks about that in Autobiography of a Yogi. how gifted people and awake people will be endure
Polarizing.
endless insults and maltreatment. That's just kind of how it is down here.
Man, I can't tell you. I don't pay attention. Like I know a lot of people. I've had a lot of people make videos about me, exposing me and stuff. It's like,
what's the exposed, man? I mean,
That's my question.
You don't have a cult leader. You're not a cult leader. No. You're not like me. You're not a cult leader. You're not trying to be famous. Okay, you're not a counselor, therapist, teacher. I'm none of those things. I'm just a man of knowledge and a contactee. I'll say that much. But outside of that, I'm none of those other things. So I mean, so why even bother? I screw up all the time. All the time. What?
I think
it's
I
not
might,
even hard to point out.
I think I might hold the record for getting attacked by every single community, every single one. So, anyways, I'm not complaining. It's a badge of honor. I'll take it. I'll take it. If people think I'm that important enough to do it, y'all go ahead. Y'all go ahead. Dig in.
Might as well say just keep doing what you're doing. Keep building the archive of information you're building. All this stuff, even if it's Justin Bieber and or whatever the case is. But I mean, keep doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? Because it helps. And some of this stuff will stand the test of time when you're doing something different. You know what I mean? That's why I did the YouTube channel. You know, it's costing me a ton of money. And then I also, a lot of time too. It wasn't easy. And I've got somebody up there fanning me down if it goes over 7 minutes. So I'm trying to condense this stuff, sweat it out.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? So it's, but yet I kept doing it because Spirit's saying it needs to be a library for people just so they know what to look up.
I needed a library like you have.
You know what I mean? Well, thank you. You know what I mean? But you want to do your own research. If you get mad, they're not long enough. Well, it's not about me sitting up there looking studious. It's a salutation to studious Barry. That sucks. That doesn't help anybody. You know what I mean? It's what is it that you can get personally enrichment from? You know what I mean? That's why I enjoy working with you. You know, you deal with things that are cool, things that are fun, but sometimes you throw in stuff that there's an underlying theme of stuff that helps people just by making people aware and being aware of self. And I'm sorry for a brother like me being aware of the woods, man. Not that I would go out there anyway, but
I chase monsters for fun in the dark. Okay, that's what I do. And I would never have it any other way. That's why I'm here today. I wouldn't be here talking on air to a bunch of people if I didn't chase monsters in the woods and stuff. But nonetheless, it's I even today, like this topic was like we were laughing about it before the show, but this is important because it ties in with so much other stuff. See, like we're having a conversation about things that really do matter. Okay, Justin Bieber turning into a reptilian does not matter. It doesn't, but it sets the tone for what we're going to talk about, right? Am I right, y'all? Am I right, audience? Yes, I'm right. Okay, and it keeps it light, kind of, because we're talking about such dark stuff, and so there's method in my madness.
One thing about that I got to throw out, okay, just in jest, okay. All the people that see this young man doing this, all right. Nobody got like a video of it, pictures of it. There should be everybody's carrying around a phone like it's a picture, and nobody got nothing. There's a few couple pictures you showed.
They said they were going to get their teeth kicked. They were going to get their teeth kicked in.
Oh yes, there was a band of men in black or whatever. Give them up right now, like the S1W for Public Enemy.
Look at that face. Look at that face, Barry. Look at that. He's clearly turning into a reptilian. Right. He is clearly turning into a reptilian.
That changed me 100%.
Yeah, right. I know. But oh wait, I do. I have some exclusive footage of Justin Bieber. Wait, I have another angle. That was him. That was him.
I must say, in all honesty, when we're talking about Ray Hernandez and the CCRI thing, the survey that was done, I brought that up several times, and the people that had experienced reptilians like physically, how many of them said that they were like neutral and positive opposed to negative. I couldn't believe it. It was very skewed, but a lot said unknown or neutral. And I asked him why, because they had to fill it out why. And Ray said the same thing. He said most of the people said the same thing. He said, Barry's got that accent. He said they said the same thing, that they didn't get hurt by them. They might even got informations or a healing or something, but the presence and the physical view of these beings was so disturbing that it tainted the experience in the beginning, even though nothing bad happened. And I can understand that when you see pictures like that, Even if
Yeah,
you were
scary.
supposedly got a benevolent one, how you gonna take that?
I mean, if I wake up and that's standing by my bed, I'm going to have an issue. Yeah, I mean, I would probably just pass out. You know what I mean?
But as we say, not all books can be judged by their cover. You know what I mean?
That's true. Well, we're talking about what
I'm still going to go with that.
the angels.
But
Well, we're even talking about the angels. Like, what? I'm not calling these things angels that we just showed on the screen. Okay, but you said, what does a real angel look like? What would God send down to protect, the people? What do they actually look like? And they may not be as pretty as we think. Okay.
Yes, they might come from dark matter, or from what I was talking about the other night, the dark sea of awareness.
That was a great show.
Come from that.
Yeah, if you guys missed that, go to Barry's channel and definitely check his last video out. That was a great live that you did. But speaking of God sending down his angels to protect humanity, there is a war on humanity, in my opinion, that's going on, and 100%, and it really does go with the reptilian agenda. Okay, and also let's talk a little bit about. Oh God, I kind of don't want to talk about this, but let's talk about the cannibalism aspect. Okay, and I know that if it's like a reptilian eating a human, that's probably not cannibalism because it's a reptilian eating a human, right? But these people are human looking, and then there is like a cult of people. There's even something called the Cannibal Club, y'all. And I looked this up. Let me tell y'all something. I had been referencing this Cannibal Club anytime, and I don't talk about cannibalism very often. Okay, but I had referred to this website, and it's cannibalclub.com or org. I think it's org. I was doing some research on that, and it pops up, and it had been fact-checked as being fake. Okay, that whole website, it was Lead Stories, and I know personally the person who runs that Lead Stories organization. Okay, and anyways, I was reading that, and I think a lot of times when things get fact-checked, I think the fact checks are covering things up. Personally, or they hone in on one little piece of whatever this is, whatever they're fact checking, and they find that not true, and so they say the whole thing's not true. Okay, but I don't know, this website, they said that it was actually it was made by some kind of web design group. That was what the fact check said. It was made by a web design group as a tongue-in-cheek, example of some kind of website.
Oh, the tongue-in-cheek. As in fun. Oh, that's definitely fun. Let's talk about some human cannibalistic groups. That's great fun there. When I go to the bar, I sit there. Hey, let me get a Bloody Mary and let's talk about some cannibalistic humans.
I know, right?
There's a thing about this. This planet is so dark.
It is.
You would have to be out of your mind to disqualify the about 95% likelihood of that being true. Maybe 100, hell, maybe 105. I mean, seriously. And that's, but that's the place we live on here, and it's, I went back and forth about this being a prison planet type thing, and that it's actually not. My regression work has showed that this is a school, not the prison planet. So I had to adjust my opinion and viewpoint to fit the facts. Because before I was on the opinion that this was a prison planet full of lost souls, and that's not exactly correct. All right, but nonetheless, it's this is a school, and you've got a school where you've got a large demonic faction who incarnates just like you and I, and people can say, "Oh, they're soulless people." Are they really soulless, or are they just dark? As in negative polarity, period. They come from that. Yeah. Not just dark energy, dark matter, but the darkness as far as negativity and that polarity of the creator. The creator is both.
That's true.
We would not exist. Yeah. Just like we're both. None of us are all one or the other. We have a majority, you know what I mean?
Balance. It's all about the balance, right?
It's kind of like a Gemini. Be careful. You're afraid to the end, but you don't let that other Charles part come out,
Chucky? You mean Chucky?
Yeah, Chucky, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I I tend to resonate more with people who have seen the dark side and crawled their way out of hell more, like because the way I have, and I'm not gonna say I trust people more like that have seen the dark side and understand it. We're not all love and light. I'm definitely not all love and light, y'all. Okay, I am as much as I can be because I've seen the darkest side of life. Okay, I have, and that's just the way it is. There's definitely a balance. And just when you think it can't get any worse, it will. Okay, so don't say that. Don't say it can't get any worse. All right, but I always tell everybody to please keep a positive mindset about things. Okay, and that's why we try to shed light on the dark is what we're doing right here. But Jay Truseeger says apparently some Dracos will even eat Sasquatches for breakfast if they're given a chance. Well, I was actually thinking about the mermaids being eaten by the elite. That was that rumor that was going around that was all over the TikTok and the internet. Of the fisherman that came forward saying that he was actually on a fishing team that went out and got exotic fish, exotic sea life for the elite to eat, basically like high dollar fish, but it ended up being mermaids. And so, I mean, can you even call that cannibalism, Barry? Because if it's
I would call that real, just like that
Yeah.
comment there. But I mean, in all reality, okay, one
Maybe,
is
though.
we're assuming that these mermaids are primitive like monkeys, and that they're
Okay.
not a complete civilization they're dealing with, or very high beyond our awareness, both psychically, mentally, technologically. And I think that for us to think that we're somehow above them on the food chain might be foolish. Just my opinion, okay? And you know what I mean? It's just to that degree. Could it be happening? Yes, but I don't think so. And for me, it vibes. I just don't feel it. Sometimes I hear these things. I enjoy asking my pendulums too. They'll tell you a lot, just yes or no. Some of these people that make these claims, I'll ask pendulum about them, not about what I'm feeling. It's what they're saying true, and it's amazing the things that you'll get. And I think that I will just say this. I think that someone that claims to be a remote viewer, to spend time trying to remote view people on these shows to prove or disprove them is unethical. And I would question what type of training they have if they're a really remote viewer. I'm just going to throw that out there, okay? Because that's going on right now. You got individuals going into chats and then trying to remote view all these people that are on trying to making these claims. They should not do that. That's unethical. It's like trying to do a cold reading on people, and you won't cold read me good ever.
Oh my gosh. That's actually kind of why part of the reason I've not taught remote viewing to people, because it can be quite dangerous when it comes to, and I mean dangerous in like an intrusive kind of way. And when you know how to do it right, you don't, there's some ethical stuff that goes on with that. And I don't give anyone permission to remote view me. I will find you. I'll find you and I'll hunt you down. Okay. But anyways, oh man. Yes, I do not consent. Okay. None of y'all should either. But anyways, Carrie Ann. Hey, Carrie Ann. She says, Kuru epidemic. Yes. Okay. Well, I was kind of about to touch on all this back when I talked about that whole red shoe thing. And they're talking about how the elites are eating children. Okay, gosh, I hate to say this is for entertainment purposes only, because this is horrible.
You gotta make me hip here.
Yes.
What is Kuru? I'm unfamiliar with that.
Well, it's funny you ask, because it is a fatal brain disease caused by cannibalism. Okay, and
as in like zombie virus?
Yes, kind of.
That's an insects only, but
well, okay, this is Kuru.
I've not heard of this. I have to write this one down.
It hit its peak back in the 50s and 60s, and it was mostly there in the indigenous, I think it's Fore or Fore people of Papua New Guinea. Okay, we're getting this brain disease. Now let's see if I got some pictures here. I have a few things to talk about, because I just want to make this little point here. Roseanne Barr, y'all remember Roseanne? She came out, and I mentioned this on Monday. She made a statement. She's made this statement publicly several times, saying that Hollywood is full of vampires, and they actually eat babies. Okay, and this is all just what she said. I'm only quoting what she says.
After she got canned for political talk
yes.
and rhetoric. Yeah.
something like that. Okay. But this is just something that, it comes up quite often. And so let's talk about it, because we're talking about the politicians too. And we have a huge epidemic of children that go missing, Barry. And you and I have talked about this. You gave me a really interesting remote viewing target of the missing persons clusters out of our national parks. Well, it's not just out of our national parks. We've got people going missing out of all the major cities. It's a lot of children. Okay, back in the day, I remember we used to have milk cartons that had children's faces on them, right? Well, we don't have those anymore, but you go in Walmart, over by the bathrooms at Walmart, and it's just lined with their wall full of children that are missing. They're everywhere. Last time I went in there, I couldn't believe the number of kids that were on that wall at Walmart missing. But a lot of people are never seen again. It's not just children.
It's like in Atlanta?
Too. This is in, outside of Atlanta. Yeah. In all the small towns and stuff. Yeah. It's at all those stores. But where were they going? Well, people like, let's just say Alex Collier, for instance, you know who Alex Collier is. He's I've had a couple of people send me videos of him this week. Shout out to Scott, who's in the chat today. He sent me a clip, and who else? I think Dan had sent me a clip. I think that's in the chat too. A long video actually of Alex, and he's talking about, this is obviously, it was probably in the 90s, I think, maybe when this was shot. It looked like it was 1990s, just based off the clothing and stuff and the hairstyles. But he was talking about how the missing children, there's so many missing, like thousands and thousands of missing children. This is back then when he was shooting this lecture, and saying that it was actually the reptilians, and it was actually the ETs, and they feed off of them. Okay. And that there are people here that are not reptilian or ET, backgrounds, who are actually getting the people, and then they're handing them over to them as a food source. Okay. As a food source. Okay. We're not the top of the food chain, but they do have human help from people who are, let's say, curating and taking them down. I was underground. I don't know where they are. I would assume, but that lines up with that data, Barry, from the remote viewing target that you gave me of where these people going that are these missing persons clusters, where are they going? And what did I tell you? I said, well, it's a facility. It looks like it's underground. It's heavily guarded, like Fort Knox. I thought it may be the Vatican or somewhere, like underground, because it was so heavily guarded. But people are being taken down to this facility. They're being experimented on, and they're being disposed of.
There are waterways to get to this facility, submarine waterways.
Yep, submarines. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's like large distances inland, actually. Nevada, wasn't it?
Yeah, and when we're talking about that, my brain goes to, okay, well, it's like our military doing it. It's like it's some kind of agency doing it of humans. But the more that we're digging into all these topics, these subjects, it's almost like there's bad factions of like humans that are doing all this to feed the reptilians or the ETs, whatever these other races are of beings that aren't quite human. That's where a lot of these missing people are going. I think that's my opinion.
Okay, so I'll throw this out. All right. So when dealing with that aspect, I had a client that was, and some of these are, I have to extrapolate what is reality from what these people have heard other people talking about and has been programming and then trained, which is very strong when you're dealing with these targeted individuals. Okay. When I get through all the screen memories and all these other things, the reason why they were being taken was to actually participate in a program that there was about maybe 4 children from, I don't know, probably just this country, I guess, or maybe the world, that were able to be used by this faction of humans that were trying to call this extraterrestrial / demon. It's a demon, a very high type of negative being that only these children could do it. And they're being surrounded by people that are not just different ethnicities of Earth people, but there's ships coming down into like an area, and there are beings coming off these ships surrounding also, all for these 4 kids to summon this being. And it was like Baal, Baal, or one of those beings like that. I don't do the dark thing, so I can't tell you exactly from, but it was very hard, and only they're able to use the frequency to manifest this thing. Even these other civilizations couldn't do it together. Okay, and it was just actually, and when you start digging at stuff like that, that is not something I've heard these SSB talking about or super, so none of them. Okay, it's something totally different. It was completely dark, and it ruined this person's life, and they didn't even know why. They didn't know that, and that's when you really get down past the screen memories and start getting to that and past the entrainment. But that's something like what you're talking about right there. And I can't remember what the reason why they were using Earth to try to summon this thing. It's the vibration of this thing that entity is able to come through here to a certain degree, manifest to a certain degree when called upon like that. There's musical tones involved and all sorts of stuff, along with these kids mentally. It was horrible. It was horrible.
Sound frequencies, man, that comes up a lot.
You know,
well, and then even the portals and stuff have something to do with the sound frequencies and like opening and closing those. And I mean, that's how they're taking a lot of these people, I think.
Music and dancing are technology. And we're told that they're not. Like our imagination is a way to project our will of intent. It's also a type of technology. We're told it's not. We get these classifications, and the classifications take over our degree of expansion of thought. You know what I mean? Like for example, some of those moai that you saw being built, it was almost in a way that's a 3D type printing from another dimension with different tools that are like acoustic scalpels. That's a manifestation deal. And you know, when you start dealing with, I've been waiting for one of your guests to start talking about these chambers. Everybody's talking about inner earth. Nobody talks about these chambers in inner earth, these catacombs that are just a catacomb itself. There are no tunnels to it. And there's like a city there. How did that get there when there's no way in or out? Okay, not by the way, like until he blows Phil Snyder stuff off. Sorry, they're not using technology like that. There's no way to get to this catacomb, but yet there's a city in there. How? It's manifested, almost 3D printed in a way like that. We can't think of that because we're too third dimensional thinking. It really gets heavy. You know what I mean? That's how we're lied to so much here. Whether people want to, qualify that with the with the holographic principle and all that, with the organic symbiosis, all these things. When I was talking, you mentioned something about viruses, and we were talking viruses, the ones that have come here that are causing problems and things like that.
Yes.
And I had mentioned before on your show, and I think it pissed some people off, but I mentioned what's called the ice, upset some people. Made some people unhappy, I guess is the way to say it. Less than happy. But anyway,
you chapped some hides. That's what you did.
It's called the isis thesis. That lady, oh gosh, her name is Judy K. King. And she did a lot of work on the Egyptian Book of the Dead and also the symbolism. And she wrote a book. It's called the Isis Thesis book. And what she's saying is that she's convinced that a lot of the, like 80 of the ancient Egyptian symbols are actually showing chromosomes and DNA activity. And that what they were saying through the mummification and through some of their technology is they were trying to find a way to activate the junk non-coded DNA to actually use something called horizontal transfer gene to activate our genes for the immortality that will allow us to pass our life memories between lives much more efficient than what we can now. And when dealing with that concept, there's certain bacteria that have been found, and one of them's called the phage, Phage, phage lambda, LMBDA. That is a type of a bacteria that is light-based. It emits light, and it actually hunts and destroys other viruses through horizontal gene transfer. And it's also present in our bodies and in our DNA makeup. So a lot of our junk DNA is quote unquote viruses that have used horizontal to get into our DNA, and also bacteria that have done the same.
Wow,
And
parasites.
That takes it to another level of another way to maybe one of these clauses in the death thing. Another way we can maintain who we are after death. I've already told you something about the personality doesn't die. But when we go back to God, to the creator, it takes a part of that, takes our life experiences.
Wow.
And then part of it is us as immortal souls have to learn how to do everything again to increase God's awareness. And if we're immortal souls, it means we know the end of every quantum possibility, every quantum outcome. There's nothing left to discover, but we're battling boredom. The ultimate adversary, boredom.
Yeah. I don't remember what boredom's like. I don't have a boring bone in my body at this point. You know, as you're saying that, I started thinking about something, Barry, and you made me ponder. Parasites. Let's talk about parasites for a minute too, because we're talking. You know, you'd asked me about the kuru. That's actually Prions disease. Now you know what Prions is. You've done videos on it. It's the same thing as that. And like the wasting disease, chronic wasting diseases.
Chronic wasting disease.
Yes.
Mad cow disease.
Mad
deer disease. Right. When I mentioned that 10 years ago, people were laughing at me. I said, be very aware of, and also the red rain that was seen in China and other places. You know, I've said for a long time, these prion diseases come from space. You start dealing with different space bacterias, organisms that have declared war on humanity. Just something as simple as detonating hydrogen-based bombs in space that rip through dimensions, or something like Project, I don't think it exists anymore, but it was called Project Stardust at Home. What that was that satellite they sent up that collected that colloidal bucket of different space debris and space organisms and dropped it back to Earth. And you could get on that Project Stardust at Home and identify a track, and they would name it after you, or a piece of cosmic dust or the other things they were looking for. But when you start looking at, if you've got organisms on the collective conscious level, microorganism level, and you're like grabbing a bunch of them like that, like that's like coming here and swooping up Australia and taking them somewhere and doing experiments. That's war.
Wow.
Detonate a bomb out there that goes through 10, 12 dimensions. Hey, it's all right, you know, big deal. That's war. You've got others, Foo Fighters and others that come to investigate. You've got organisms that are going to declare war on humanity. And I believe once they get here and get within our biosphere, into our ecosystem, they start showing up as these prion diseases.
Yes. And also the parasites. Okay, I wanted to get into parasites. Barry and I are not doctors. Okay, so don't take it. This is not medical advice. We're only talking about this because we don't know what we're talking about.
What are you talking about? Gallifrey. What are you talking about?
Okay. Do what?
Gallifrey.
What's that?
Doctor Who joke. It's a joke.
Okay.
Sure. Keep joking.
Okay. Well, but you know what I've been reading, and I this comes up a lot now, is like parasites are actually the root cause of a lot of issues. And somebody had put some parasites under a microscope, and they look like little demons. Okay. And so they say that actually, some people say, this is just what some people are saying, that actually the causes of some cancers might be parasites instead of whatever we're told is the problem. Like if you treat certain things with anti-parasite medicine, I guess, you're cured. It'll cure you. So a lot of the things are actually parasites. Okay. So I know my buddy AJ, if y'all know who I'm talking about, can't say his name or else you get in trouble. But he's talks about information wars, if you know what I mean. And he talks about parasite cleanses all the time. I used to watch a show. And so, that's not a bad thing to look into, y'all. And it's kind of like with all the meats that we're eating. And I know we're talking about cannibalism. Okay. Right now, we don't know what the heck's in these meats. We don't even know what the meats are anymore, Barry. Okay. Have you seen all the videos of people that buy meat at the grocery store and it just like smushes apart, and like it's like they're making meat now. Okay, like lab grown 3D printed meat and stuff. I mean, where are we going with all this? Okay, talking about a war on humanity. What is the end goal with all this? Transhumanism? That's what I think.
You know, two things. One is, humans leave behind not just DNA that is degrading in the air and around us, but we have something. I mentioned this the other night. A microbial cloud is what it's called. Microbial cloud or microbial aura. And a lot of times it almost leaves it to wonder if some of the colors that these people that see in people's biofield is not microbial. So it's called the microbial cloud that we live behind at all times and is around us at all times. And, if you want to go a little bit heavier science fiction, would it be right, Jones, if I did geek out on you a little bit? Going into science fiction, H.G. Wells and War of the Worlds, in reality, those ships were impervious to all of our technology and they were taken over, actually colonizing the earth with some sort of a red fungus. But what got them, what brought those ships down, is they started coming out of the ships and looking around. And they developed a microbial cloud living here. And it tore their butts up, man. And they died. That's how, but that ultimately is very good. When my earlier experiences, the insectoid being had told me about how being outside of the craft is dangerous for them here. Not just because of that, but even more, the metals in our atmosphere. And they were connecting this to acid rain, which I didn't know what the hell that was when I was in the 6th grade. But this was happening during this experience. Acid rain and the metals in our air is very, very bad for them to breathe. And there's another way they can get trapped here. So, so anyway, just, food for thought I'll throw out there. But when dealing with a microbial cloud, there's a whole lot to be said with what you're saying about parasite contamination. There was I didn't mention this the other day, but there was a Star Trek record I had as a kid. It was called To Starve a Flavor. It was a record. And on it, they beamed up this cat named Council Hausnick from this planet to be part of the Federation. And when he comes on, they're showing him the ship. And all of a sudden, Kirk and everybody starts doing this and starts laughing when they can't even get any work done. They're all laughing. Everybody that's around this counselor. He had something on him, a microbe from the microbiome called a Meiji. And what Meijis did was lived on pleasurable emotions. So if you're a serious like Starfleet person, they're on the people tickling them, so they start laughing, and you know what I mean? And so they would generate these emotions, but it was causing infestation on the ship. That's when at that age I started becoming aware of the microbiome and stuff like that. Sorry, that has nothing to do with it we're even talking about. But
no,
it's good information though, scientifically for people to look up.
It's very interesting. I know there's some comments on here like I would love to pull everything up, but like I just don't want to get we're not giving medical advice and all that kind of stuff. So that's the only reason, y'all. I'm not pulling up every comment today.
That last statement was true. That's very true.
Yeah.
And that kind of takes you into the whole thing about the bacteria and especially pseudomonas that exist within the permafrost. All right. But even more so, what you and I were talking about, I think the other day, Maury Povich, and like he was tripping out. He was telling him, man, I told you not to shave. He's down in them tombs, man, because the bacteria down there in those sarcophagi were, could get in your, yeah.
Oh, God. That's right. You're talking about that.
They said that some of the things that killed some of the people that broke into King Tut's Egyptian tomb was some of that bacteria like that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we got to be careful. Yeah, it's the bacteria that'll get you. Okay.
Real quick, when dealing with that, okay, and like that phage lambda is a bacteria, but I've talked about on your show before when dealing with organic craft, how a lot of these organic craft that are going into the earth are not just dealing with stone technology, they're going to the deep biosphere. And in the deep biosphere, I was wrong on that last number I'd given out a few months ago. I looked it up now. In the Earth's deep biosphere is the microbial. Okay, you've got 99% of Earth's undiscovered fungi and bacteria in the deep biosphere. So the amount of those that could be used similar to the phage lambda, or even more, or that might be encoded in our DNA, it gets almost limitless to find that out. That's where I think we're going to go as humanity and survival, is that way, if we make it.
If we don't all turn to cannibalism, okay, and I don't think we will. But I don't, you know what, I was just thinking too, like, there have been people that came out saying that there was like human meat in some of the foods at the fast food places that we like. I'm not saying I like it, but I'm just saying, like, but I don't eat Mickey D's anymore. But there's been,
you eat some Wendy's though, don't you?
I'll eat me some Wendy's occasionally. It's probably just as bad. Yeah. You got me. I'm busted on that one. I love JBC is what me and my kid call them. JBC.
Somebody in the chat said that they never seen me laugh. I just saw it a while ago. They never seen me laugh. Like when you had brought up the chronovisor that's supposed to be Yeshua carrying the thing. You know, that one was not near as funny as when you showed the picture of the young African boy with the pig feet, the pig leg. That was hilarious.
I think it was a woman with like goat's legs.
I really contained myself after that.
Yeah. Oh my god! I think it was a woman where she goes moo. I was like, she said moo.
Oh
yeah,
man.
It was cow legs, I think. Yeah, that was funny. But yeah, that's I don't think listen. If you go down the rabbit hole, the conspiracy rabbit hole, and you do, there are a lot of videos and things out there pointing towards the fact that I'm not going to say fact, pointing towards the assumption, the idea, the rumor that there is human meat, and actually there is a fact, because there have been studies done, and some of the meats that we buy, some of the food products, some of the, I don't know, it's fast food places, it has human DNA in it. Okay, human DNA. So is this being done on purpose? And if it is, I mean, or is there a reason? What would the reason be for whoever it is that is in charge of the food, preparation? Who's putting human meat in there? And why would they do that? Would they do that on purpose? Might be a worker
on there. Uses the arm and it just goes in there and serve it up anyway.
I remember the finger. Well, people are eating lunch right now. Well, I don't want to get into it, okay? Because this is lunchtime.
You should have brought it up.
I'm about to eat lunch, and as soon as I get off the show today, I'm gonna eat some lunch too, okay? And I'm starving. But isn't that a spiritual, type of a deal right there? Like if there are people knowingly putting human meat into the foods that we eat, and especially people, it's average Americans, average humans, average people, not just Americans, it's all over the country. We go and get fast food. It's just become part of our culture, right? If people are putting human meat into our food, that's making us into cannibals without us knowing, right? What are the implications of that, Barry?
You remember that movie Alive?
Yes. Yeah. It was a rugby team that crashed. Like the Andes Mountains or somewhere.
Would you have done it?
Eating butt meat?
That's they're funny. Did you? Why you say? Of all the scenes, you remember that one, huh?
Of course I do. They had to eat the butt. They ate
funny topic.
For the butt because I know that movie. Okay, and I played rugby. All right, I think that was a rugby team. That's a true story. Now, I would rather starve than eat my friend. Okay, I'm not that. I'm okay with death. I'm okay with death. Okay, and I'd rather starve than eat human meat. That's me personally. Now
that movie was alarming, and so was the one Open Water. There wasn't a major production, but where they got the ship left the people out in the ocean where they were diving. They pretty much they just floated till they were shark bait. It was horrible. It was a horrible movie. I mean, it's good, but I mean, just horrible fate. You just keep seeing yourself. What if that was me out there?
Angie.
It It make a brother think twice before he goes for a dive on a cruise ship. That's for sure.
No, I'm there's a couple of things I will never do again. And one of them is ride on a cruise ship. I'm just not. I actually performed on a cruise ship when I was a teenager. Okay,
Really?
I bet that's a fun fact none of y'all knew. It was Disney too, by the way.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
You're like a
It was just
Disney
for a
kid?
summer. No, I did not work for Disney. No, hold on.
Oh, okay.
No, I did not work for Disney. I was just there. It was like a traveling thing. It was with my, anyways, it's a long story. But yeah, as soon as, I've been on 2 cruises, I think, and both times I got deathly sick being on those cruises, like stomach viruses.
Seasick?
Stomach viruses.
Oh, really?
It's
Wow.
just dirty. I'm sorry, it's just dirty, y'all.
That.
I don't know. No shade to the cruise industry, okay? I'm not. I have no.
Well, you talk
desire
about
to
people
ever
that
go
come
on
up
one.
missing, people that go over rails and
that
stuff on
too.
the cruise ships.
Somebody went in my stuff and stole my birth certificate out of my bag while I was on that Disney cruise. I had to deal with that. Yeah. So it was a bad experience. It was a bad experience all the way around.
You're full of little mysteries, aren't you? Now
I got way more.
You were performing for Disney. You didn't work for Disney. You were performing for Disney.
Yeah.
You were.
Pretty much.
Gosh, you hung out with the boss man. Raced some cars with the boss man. You hung out with rappers.
I was a race car
running around
driver.
with rappers. No rappers.
I'm telling you, I don't know. I've had
Joe?
a very fun life.
And
It's been very
you
interesting.
carry guns. You like strapped. So what's
Stay strapped to get clapped, baby.
Maybe they did model that.
I know. And people still want to come at me. They don't know who I am or what I do or what I've been through. Okay. And that's okay. It's my secret weapon.
Hey, right
okay.
on. I can relate to that because I sometimes, like, something that will tee me off every now and again was when somebody will quote healing to me and tell me what I need to do to heal. First, you don't even know me. Number 2 is, look, I survived 4 catastrophic traumatic brain injuries given at one time, one accident. Okay. And tell me one other person you've met that's ever been through that, let alone is still cognizant. So I don't want to hear nothing about healing from anybody. That's a lot of people normally talking it and haven't really done it. I've been through it, a lot of it. I know what it feels like to not remember who you are, not to be able to remember your decision, the pattern making, which is who you are for somebody like me. You know what I mean? And then also, just what you had to go through physically after being in a coma for weeks and going through stuff like that. So I don't want to hear people quoting healing to me at all. It irritates me. You know what I mean? So that, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Not everybody does, but you've got these know-it-alls that come out of the woodwork. And I know you've dealt with them too. They know it all. Look, I don't know that much. It looks like I know more than I do because it's cyberspace. That's easy. You know what I mean? People say something, people just Google it real quick, and all of a sudden, oh, you're an authority, real quick. An instant Google search. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But I don't know very
Google.
much. You get these people that come out of the woodwork and act like they're these experts on everything. They know everybody, and they're experts on anything you can mention. That is the biggest turnoff, the biggest burnout ever. And it stops real information from getting disseminated and made into a tapestry. You know what I mean?
Well, maybe that's the whole point of it, is to stop the information flow. Okay. And I get that too a lot. It's like, especially when we do like some of these remote viewing targets, and I've got it set up to do a show, and there'll be a couple of comments. It's like, oh, that's already been debunked. And I'm like, well, has it? I don't know. That's just what you read.
Or they'll say such and such looked at it. And then you go look it up and there's nothing there. Okay. No one's looked at it. You know what I mean? That happens a lot. But that, I think, is part of how a lot of what you're doing is getting sequestered. I've been long since sequestered. I try to keep you out of the sequestered club, but apparently you got into it also. But the real shadow banning, those of us that don't get these, when you go on Social Blade and look up, suddenly you got 100 subscribers, you put out one video, you get 300-400 subscribers. And you can track these people and see how they're buying their own views, they're buying subscribers, and that's why their numbers go up. It's very obvious when you start dealing with Social Blade and other things. So, but who am I to judge? Because right now, this is about clickbait. It's about being popular. It's about being known. You don't have to be an actor anymore. You can just use your phone and you say the right stuff. You're just famous. You know what I mean? Who needs acting? Who needs to go to the hospital now? That's why all the soaps are gone.
Man, I guess performing on that Disney cruise ship made me know that I don't really care to get any of that. All the fame and fortune I got from that. I'm just kidding. There's none. That was so weird.
Yeah,
That was such a fun time in my life, though. I tell you what.
that's cool.
Yes. I'm sure that we've grossed some people out today as far as y'all eating your lunch. So I apologize, okay, for grossing people out about the McDonald's and or the Mickey D's, okay, and things like that. I didn't get into detail about it, but I know it's kind of gross. And Earth Goat Tress says I went 44 days without eating. So going for a few days fasting won't end anyone. I might be fasting here pretty soon too after this conversation today.
By the way, I just want to state this out that I'm not referring to anyone in your audience when I talk about that. I'm not referring to anyone that's affiliated with you or in your audience, because I know sometimes people think that. So no, but I've come from a different audience than Jessica's, different venue. I've dealt with a bunch of people, and like I've said before, some of those people aren't good people. Not the people chat, not the attendees. It's the people themselves that have these big following. Some of them are really not good people. And if you met them in person, you know that for sure. And you know that they can't do any of the stuff that they say. They don't have any of the abilities that they say. They don't have the qualifications they say. And when you get around them, they're not really powerful people. They're not very present. They don't have personal energy, personal power. You feel it. You know, like when I get around somebody like you, I knew you were, I've mentioned this before. I knew you were a contactee before we met. And it took you forever just to admit that to me. I still don't know what that was all about. Yeah. You kept trying to throw the bee around. You kept trying to lead me around the merry-go-round. With that, I knew you were a contactee. I could feel it on you. That's one of the things I liked about you. You know, but there's others than the people in the attendees, and it's always these people. Jessica will come and say, "Oh, I've not had experiences like yours, but I think this is really cool." And they're the people that have that vibe on them big time.
Yeah.
I'll say, "Really? You sure about that?" And what do you mean? I said, "Well, have you seen a UFO?" And they'll be like, "Well, yeah." I said, "Is it one that maybe you could see it and you're in a group of people and, you know, maybe you and one other person could see it? Everybody else is going, where? And you got to think of these people blind. It's right there." And they start looking at me. "Well, actually, that did happen to me. How'd you know that?" I said, "Well, you need to explore your consciousness more." A few days later, do you start having weird dreams, being weird places or meeting weird people? There's often a time lag, and we don't realize when you see a craft like that, and especially before the era of the drones, everything is a drone. That's like AI now. But before that, when you would see things like that and how much information can be transmitted to the subconscious and the superconscious in just a millisecond where you're looking at that thing.
Yeah.
We're not used to data transfer like that. But we can access it through hypnosis and through other ways. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just fascinating.
Yeah. Well, you know, I was very hesitant to ever talk about any of my experiences, especially publicly, Barry. And that's why I went 10 years with never speaking about it publicly, about Bigfoot or ETs or anything, because it just wasn't anybody's business. Okay. I had no reason to talk about it. And that was just my experience. I had a couple of teams, you know, several teams I was on. I had a good support group there. I didn't need to tell anybody about that. And but then when I eventually was kind of thrusted out into the public, okay, I didn't choose this. It chose me, I guess. And so that's when I was hesitant to ever open up about that stuff. Okay. And it's for a good reason, you know, but now I'm glad that I did. And it helps that I'm friends with you, okay, and I can talk to you about it. And I've seen that our audience we're kind of magnetized to each other now. People that have the similar experiences as us are here in our chats and here at the conferences and supporting the shows and we support each other. So I appreciate it, and there's a reason for it, for sure.
You're that's something we share in common. You know, no matter where I'm at now. And it's been over 10 years since I came forward. Look, I was never going to do that. I always said that I was going to talk about my experiences one day and I was going to maybe try to help people with it and all that. But the truth is, man, that was just talk and it was bluff and I was never really going to do it. And I was obsessed with hiding. You know what I mean? I was one of those people on YouTube watching tons of videos, didn't even have a channel, Didn't have no way to put a like on nothing, a negative, nothing. But I was watching all sorts of stuff hiding. And then I had that car accident in 2010, and I got thrown out on the street publicly. Both my psychic abilities, my healing abilities, and then eventually that I was a contactee. And you have no idea how that happened. Was a trip. Somebody my father worked with, an engineer, and he's a contactee / pilot / designer. Quite brilliant man. But he's a contactee, but he takes pictures with this quantum holographic technique that he wrote a book with somebody. I can't remember. Anyway, but quantum observation technique is what it's called. And it's a way to actually get a look at, especially what we call critters or energy zoa in the sky. But he would go in, talk to my father. At that time, my father was in his 80s. And he would go in there and talk to my father about this stuff. My father, ex-basketball player, did not care about UFOs. Okay, that's not, it's like me talking about tennis. It's just not my thing, So he said, you talk to my son. He's crazy like you. This guy would start calling me all the time. And I was like, man, and I tried to act kind of stupid. And like, I don't know what he's talking about. I don't want to deal with it. He wouldn't go away. He kept calling, you know what I mean? And then finally I met him one day when I went down to give my dad some papers. And he's one of the people Jessica had seen on the craft when I was a teenager.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when I was 17, when my experiences started again, I saw him on this craft. And one of the people was kind of phased out. I think, oh my gosh. So I had to start dealing with him then. And I said, well, no wonder he wouldn't go for my stupid deal. You know what I mean? He said, I was on to you, Barry. And I did my first interview with him. They tricked me to going over in his house. And I just wanted to get the cookies off my thing so I could Skype. And they wanted doing the show, and that winds up me and you being friends all the way down to that. I didn't ever want to come forward, and I tried to get out of it. I certainly didn't want people to know I was psychic or a medium, and I for sure didn't want people to know I was a hypnotist. When you and I first met, I wasn't telling people. I didn't tell people none of that stuff. Only I was a contactee.
Yeah, it was almost like we were both being held back a little bit. We're being held back from talking about it until the time was right, till we had the right people around us. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, you're probably right about that.
Not that I didn't have the right people around me back then, but I'm talking about to speak publicly on it. Because, the people that are in my teams and stuff, they're not public. A couple of them are, but the majority are not. And I never meant to be.
I bet you're a good voice for them. That's cool.
I try to represent, but I also try to keep it all just kind of my stuff and not speak on behalf of everybody else. You know what I mean? Yeah. And because they they're all very private. So, yeah. And Midwest Night Watchers, Carol and Jane, thank you so much. They've been a member of the Hunt Club for 5 months. And also, thank y'all so much for your support.
Yeah, they sent some clients my way, and they were really good sessions to people they sent. I had a good session with Jane, too. So I thank them for that.
That's awesome. They're the best. And Rhonda, thank you so much for becoming a member of the Hunt Club. And also, I know Maureen gave some memberships out earlier today, too. So I want to thank y'all for that. Yeah, this has been a really fantastic show today, and I didn't get too much into the human meat aspect. Thank goodness. It kind of took a little turn, so I didn't have to talk about that today. But just know it is kind of odd. Somebody in the chat actually had said that there was human DNA found in plant-based burgers that were on the market. It's like,
wow.
What in the world? I've actually read that too. Mm-hmm.
So that means even the vegans are getting screwed over.
Exactly. Wow, we're all getting hit.
Wow.
We are.
When dealing with something you were mentioning earlier, this is something that I had a video that I sent you earlier, and on my channel it's called it's under the Negative Inorganic Beings playlist, but it's called Chemtrails and Morgellons disease. And there was a study that was done by Dr. Delbert Blair, where he had some chemtrails scientifically analyzed. And for the life, I cannot find that data anymore, or that interview where he talks about it. But the things that they found under microscopy, excuse me, God, I'm getting tired. Anyway, what they found that in those chemtrails were not just Morgellons, but Pseudomonas, different type of monococcus, whatever we call it, manure, cow manure,
So poop.
Something called
Yeah.
quantum dots, which are involved with the holographic principle. Okay, and gosh, there was some other type of a staphylococcus or something similar to that. But I mean, all these things, and they're like, my God, what kind of a concoction was it they're spraying people with? I know they talked about some of that
Oh,
on that
yeah.
old movie. What are they spraying? What in the world are they spraying? What Dr. Delbert had was even a little bit more in-depth analysis of what those chemtrails were. At least some of them. I mean, it was really creepy to that point, and to think that breathing that, giving people more gallons and things. And why in the world would there be quantum dots and nanobots and things? And some of these people that you and I have met, one of them in particular, you and I met, showed me analysis of air, like stuff from the vents in their place that had this nano dust in it, these nanobots.
Yeah.
And we start going into scientifically what they call now xenobots, xenobots, and how much smaller they are. They're the size of like nanoparticles, but they're the ones that, like on Star Trek, that go in and reprogram cells. There was an episode of Star Trek: Next Generation where again Will Wheaton, again, he comes up again, actually had these nanites that he was doing an experiment on, and they got out of the traps, and they went and started reprogramming the computer core of the Enterprise. First, they started eating the crystals that ran the core, then they started reprogramming it. And it actually made another life form that looked like a type of a crystal when it went together. They called us ugly bags of mostly water. Sorry, anyway.
Oh my God, you're okay. So I'm thinking about, oh gosh, this is like so connected to what we talked about earlier today, because I'm thinking about graphene oxide and venom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, venom is that venom from the Marvel movies. And when I see that video that I referred to earlier about the man that's walking down the street and he gets like mugged by that dude and he falls to the ground, and then I don't know if he falls to the ground or not, I can't remember, but that being, that shadowy figure, comes out of his back basically and beats up the robber basically. That reminds me of venom. Okay, it's almost like something. It's almost like a black goo is taken over, and not to say that that wasn't a spirit or something that was in that man, but it's very much like venom, and like what you're describing.
Yeah, and dealing with that, I know black goo is really popular now, but I've always said that's unrefined oil. I believe I think it's sentient. But anyway, when dealing with something like one of those last Transformer movies, the Decepticons would turn into this nano dust and transport themselves and then reform. I think they showed that in that remake, that terrible remake of The Day the Earth Stood Still with Keanu Reeves. Boy, that was a down remake. But they did show Gort, the robot, as being quantum dust like that too, to move himself around. So stuff like that, gets very interesting. I've seen people also, like the tall white alien, I have black goo here. I have black goo, and he's showing you a test tube of this black stuff moving around. It looks like it's kind of alive. Look, folks, that is called, if anybody that watched Mr. Wizard World like I did, I used to watch Mr. Wizards every day after school. There's something called ferromagnetic fluid. It's a black fluid that you can go to Amazon and buy for magic tricks right now, that guy is holding up. This is black goo. It's not, come on, man. I mean, stuff like that, people got to be aware of where the information comes from. But as far as a sentient subject and that goo and stuff, and I think maybe something that's been divided, we start looking at what's called Wetiko, the mind virus. And, I don't want to bring that up because people start arguing about that. But the originally, as that is described, though, is also described as a type of a fungus. And I think it takes us into some of these funguses and bacteria that do have the negative connotation to it. But the ones that might be positive, that did horizontal gene transfer with us and our junk DNA, we don't hear about. We don't hear about all those other ones that might be positive, like the phage lambda. Food for thought is all I'm throwing out for everybody.
Oh, yeah. And speaking of, that's wonderful, Barry. Speaking of food, we're talking about, someone in the chat had said, you can tell if there's something bad in your food, let's just say by using a pendulum, like ask it. But Kirian has a wonderful point too, like bless your food, say a little prayer, change the vibrational frequency of your food before you eat it. That's always important, especially if you're eating
Kira?
food. No, that's Kirian.
Kirian,
not
okay.
Kira that you know. Yeah.
Okay,
it's Kirian.
Yes.
And so, but if you know, it's important that we do that. Okay. It's not just to bless it spiritually, it's to change the vibration of your food, okay, and your water as well. And something else I wanted to mention is I was thinking about when you were talking about what they're spraying on us. Let's just say what they're spraying in the skies, without saying what it's called. It's actually barium and aluminum. And what do those two elements spell? B-A-A-L, Bell. And that is what you were talking about earlier. That's like Moloch, right? Who they were sacrificing children to. Okay, wow, I'm just saying.
Yeah. In that video, I've got like the number of percentage that Dr. Blair had. I managed to transcribe that back then. But yeah, barium and aluminum, you're right. That was in there, definitely in there. And it was something else, another component. It was horrible, though. It was like some sort of a soup. You know what I mean? A soup, a biological, chemical soup.
Yeah.
Really, really odd. You think, God,
it ain't healthy. Man. Okay.
No, definitely
not. Yeah, it's just like I said. There's a war on humanity, an attack on humanity, and
you know as well as I do, there is a war and there is attack on the light. You see it. There is a war and an attack on the light, and it comes out in all these little weird, partially masked innuendo in the community. Soul traps and all these other things, and things I said before that don't hold up in my regressions. Now, as far as things you might, once you incarnate, you can start dealing with all this stuff, but they're attacking people once you get in the body. Their ability to do before it is not what we're told. Now, they can track you. You know what I mean? They can track your incarnation. I've dealt with that. But as far as when you actually, what they can do to you, and as a target individual, once you incarnate here, it changes instantaneously. Mm-hmm. How they start hitting you with all those frequencies and doing all that stuff to you. And then just to make it better, hey, guess what? You could be in the incubator room and pick up 10, 12 earthbound spirits. They're all in there waiting to try to jump on people. Incubator room, kids. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, it's the things is you've got this compounded problems on this planet. And I'm hoping that's what people like you and I and people in the chat are changing down here. It's just the awareness of this, you know, the things, some of the rituals we should be doing at death, really, to help our people transition, not just crying and weeping because we're selfish and not going to see them anymore because we didn't treat them right when they were alive. Not everybody, but I mean, that is a standard problem during funerals, people feeling sorry for themselves, opposed to, because they're going to miss this person, opposed to celebration of their life. Not all funerals, but I think it is a problem and things that keep people trapped here easier than what we think. Think about how much we love each other, man, how much you love your son. Your son, you're still aware. You're saying, hey, he can't hear you, but he's telling you, hey, don't leave. Yeah. I'm not, I won't. And the light's there, maybe later. No. Yeah. And then we get trapped here. And then all of a sudden it gets dark. You don't see that light anymore. And you see the light on people, though, and you can keep dealing with that. You can feel them and see it, but you can't communicate with them anymore, except for weirdos like you and me. So we're like beacons.
Yeah. That's true. But, you know, there's got to be light in this dark world, right?
When you go into the light, I've said this before, what I've seen, spirits have the ability to come back, and they come back and they help. And they're not trapped in their loved one's energy field. They're outside of it. They've got their own energy source. You know what I mean? Totally different thing. They don't stay here, though. They come and go. You know what I mean? Through quantum entanglement, I think. We're all connected. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm talking too much.
Well, I just encourage everybody to really just live in your most authentic self, your authentic life. You know, be who you came here to be, y'all, and take care of yourselves and try to keep your vibrational frequency high, as Jane from Midwest Night Watchers and Chiro Sounds always says. Keep your vibrations high, y'all, and just live your best life. And be aware. You know, we talk about these things not to gross people out or to scare anybody. We talk about it so you can be aware of it, because there may be several people who are listening in right now who have never heard of this and are eating McDonald's every day, and you don't know what could be in there. And I'm just saying, this is for entertainment purposes only. I don't know. These are just rumors and things that I've read. So, I know
more people in a Big Mac or more people in a quarter pounder. No, I'm just kidding.
It depends. I don't know. Is a quarter pounder got more meat in it than a Big Mac? I don't know.
Big Mac with 3 patties though.
I'll tell you one thing. I can't even take a bite of those anymore. I used to love a Big Mac a lot. I think the foods have changed too. Like the quality of our food at fast food restaurants has really gone down the tubes. I'm just saying.
It's changed a lot.
It's all of them too. It's not just
remember the days when you got those fries that were done in lard. That's why they taste like that.
Oh yeah, I love me some fat. Okay, I'll eat some fatty stuff. I will. Fat's my favorite part. Okay. So
my grandmother used to put chicken in milk, and she had some recipe. She would soak it in milk like twice, and she would make it on Sundays. And I couldn't wait for my father to take me over to that house so I could raid that chicken while they were at church. I mean, I've never had chicken like that in my life from any of the places, and anyone I know that can cook it like
Crisco, it's probably too. My nanny, my grandmother, I called her nanny. She used to cook in Crisco all the time. She'd make homemade biscuits just about every day and all that. So, yeah, I miss that. I need to start making biscuits for my kid every day.
If I could have patented that, I guarantee I would have sold more chicken from my grandmother's recipe than that damn Flavor Flav who was down there opened up some chicken places in your neck of the woods, didn't he?
I don't know.
That terrible TV show with Bridget Nielsen. She's running on Fifi. They're both running the chicken places. Yeah. I don't think it stayed in business though. Boy.
Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna get off here. I'm gonna go get me some Flavor Flav chicken and some Patti LaBelle pies.
Oh yeah, chicken and waffles actually. Gladys Knight. Well, that's Gladys Knight. Gladys Knight has a chicken and waffle. Used to have a chicken and waffle place in Atlanta. It was good too. Yeah, it was right by Django's. Django, this place I used to hang out at and stuff. Okay, so, but yeah, it's that's
name
ATL
again. Oh gosh.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say it. It's
not that. It's just over the last holiday, I had several family members that got it. It wasn't an argument, but it was a heated discussion because my uncle had said that Django was a comedy, and it was actually written as a comedy, and a lot of people disagreed with him. But then when you Google it, it's under that. It's supposed to be a comedy, and it caused a lot of diversion. Let's say I said the only thing I could see the very end of it was ridiculous. He was beyond a superhero. In the very end, it was ridiculous how he blasted everybody in the entire. That was a little silly. It was kind of funny the way he's rolling on the ground. I mean, but outside of that, it wasn't a comical movie to me at all. So it's interesting, people's take on things. And I guess as Obi-Wan told Luke Skywalker, the truths are they're different truths depending on your point of view.
Yeah, it's all about perception. Okay, it is. And Urso has the answers for us when it comes to what has more meat. A quarter pounder has more meat. Urso has worked at McDonald's. Okay. So he answered the age-old question, which
so Urso, I'm less of a cannibal if I get a Big Mac. That's cool. I need to know that.
You're about 1/8 of a pounder less likely.
Oh man,
okay. That is so fun. That's crazy.
Okay, that's a male.
Yes, Urso is a guy.
I apologize. I did not know that. I think I've addressed him as a female. I'm sorry. I did not know that.
Oh, yeah.
I apologize.
Thank you, Urso. Yeah.
It's such a unique name. I just kind of made it kind of associated with Superman 2, Ursa, Sarah Douglas. Different, only one word different. I'm an entertainment geek.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah.
Amelius, I see your comments. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. I've seen you put this up here a couple of times. It's kind of, I know people are eating, so it's kind of like, I was trying not to pull up some of the comments that might make people kind of, but yeah, the placenta, y'all. Okay. There's a comment. It just says, some people, I know that was a thing at the hospital. That's up for debate because it's like, well, do you keep it? You know, traditionally throughout the centuries, you know, that's, I don't know, that they can be used for, from what Amelius was saying, dark rituals against your children and your family and stuff. So just be aware of that. Okay, I pulled it up. That's very uncomfortable to think about, but it's very true. Okay, and I think like Kim Kardashian, I remember when she had a kid, they were talking about keeping her placenta and grinding it up and putting it into capsules so she could take them. Okay, and people do that. They do that. It's like when a cat eats its placenta. Oh my God.
You know, I've
See,
heard.
I didn't want to talk about this.
I have
Sorry,
heard
y'all.
that Kanye West and Kim Kardashian both had watched all my videos and they've watched yours. I was told.
Oh, really?
Somebody that knew Kanye. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That's been a while ago now, but it's when about the time you and I first started working together.
Oh, really? Well, that's kind of cool.
I don't know if it's real. I mean, I also was told that Shaq had watched my stuff too. Like, come
Well,
on,
I
Shaq.
literally met him. I met Shaq. I talked about that. I ran into him in Atlanta. I literally ran into him with my body, like smashed into him. Yeah, that was wild.
So knowing that a Sasquatch would be about 1.5 feet, 2 feet taller than him and about 3 feet more broad, what does that leave your mind?
Yeah. I mean, Bigfoots are huge. Okay. Shaq is big. He's a big dude. He's the biggest human I've ever met.
See,
sure.
Now him and my friend Paul White are about the same size. They did a wrestling match. Paul might be a little bigger than him, definitely heavy wise. Now, of course, that's the big show that knew your friend, the boss man.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, interestingly enough, just to give people an idea, when last time I'd ever sseen Paul White outside of when he's wrestling in town, but he was running the liquor store, the what do you call it, the van thing, and he was delivering liquor, and he was at my parents were out of town. I was with one of my best friends. His name is Paul, and we was at this liquor store and getting some 40s. This is back in the days of 45, Colt 45. I was trying to be like Lando Calrissian. Billy D. Williams drank Colt 45, so obviously that would make me cool. And you know, also if you drank it, you have all these women stand around you, just like the deal, right? You know. Anyway, Paul was in there and he pushed me from the back. I didn't see him. He pushed me. I kind of went in the thing. I turned around and he's like, "Yo, B man, what you gonna say? What's up?" And I said, "Man, I didn't see you, Paul." And he goes, "Man, how could you miss me?" And he leans over. He goes, "I know what it is, man. You're too worried about this." And he leans over and he grabs the Colt 45 40 ounce out of my hand, right? And my friend Paul walks up. And I was like, "Hey, Paul, this is Paul." And Paul is holding this bottle, Jessica. And it would look like I've got a big hands. It would look like a regular bottle of beer in my hand, almost like cupping it. And we got done. We're outside. My friend Paul looked at me. He goes, "Pete, that's the biggest MF I've ever seen." I say, "Yeah, he's big. He wouldn't weigh as much as he did now, but he's a big cat. And his fingers look like sausages." So I can only imagine what I've heard of how a Sasquatch would dwarf him in about every way. That would be very intimidating to run into that in the woods, whether you're spiritual or not.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, actually a lot of the Bigfoots that are seen, especially around Georgia, I mean, there's some huge ones in Georgia, but also they're like skunk apes. They're a little bit, they're like 6, 7 feet tall, stuff like that. They're a little more lanky, you know. But yeah, it can be. That's why I think a lot of people, maybe the Bigfoots will be right in front of them and they don't see them because they're so gigantic. Your brain can't even comprehend what you're looking at. That's what I think.
You know, I was listening to one of those stories the other day, Encounter, and the individual had talked about how she was allowed to see. She got to look at these juveniles, these kid Sasquatch playing. They lured them in by putting up a volleyball tether, and they were messing from the trees with the volleyball tether. And then later on, the grandfather says, "Just be aware of something. You know, you never go any near them." And although they were about 6 feet tall, is what they said, about 5, almost 6 feet tall, the grandfather said those are juveniles. Those are probably more like the ages of 5, 6 our kids. And the person I couldn't believe it said one that I saw was like almost 10 feet tall. You know, so things like that, we think like, wow, how quick do they grow according to our biological scale. And, you know, something else that was mentioned in that and in a few other interviews I've heard, people saying how Sasquatch has a resistance to all bug bites and spider bites that would kill us almost instantly. You know, and things of that nature. They have this
Yeah.
unreal resistance to
Wow.
everything. And they're just, although they look human, we know there's a little human in that biome. They're not human. They are another species.
They're something else.
And they're
Yeah.
much more built for this environment than us, don't you think?
Yes, for sure.
Makes it-
As I'm
makes it a little
scratching,
jealous.
as I'm scratching the back of my leg where I have bug bites. Yeah, for sure.
Oh, from Gafton, where there
I
was what was it? The horse
no,
fly,
those
no,
I
the
have
black
scars
flies.
from that.
They're technically scientifically called black flies, but they were calling them. What are they calling them up there?
I don't know. They were helicopter flies. They were huge.
Or-
You and I actually were, I think we were targeted up there with those bugs. I was literally covered in, I have scars on my legs to this day from those bugs up there. And we were at that conference. That was wild. But yeah, I got these mysterious bug bites on my legs yesterday, on both my legs.
God,
They
what
got
did
through my
that guy
pants somehow.
call
I
it?
don't know. Yeah,
You know,
we
one
got
of the
some
names he called it made me kind of laugh, but it's not
bugs.
funny. Those things were vicious. People were
Yeah.
putting on off, and they were biting people through off.
Yes,
I
we got
remember,
that
yeah,
sweet,
everybody was
sweet
trying to wear
skin.
jeans and pants.
Yeah. Some of us have sweeter skin than others, I guess.
They're really called black flies, but they called them horse something, not horse
Horse
flies.
flies?
Horse
I don't know.
what?
They were. I said horse flies, but yeah.
No.
Sounds
They
wrong.
weren't. It was horse something like that, but not flies. It was something that sounded like it come right off the Mississippi. That's where that was. It was the Mississippi River right there, right?
Yeah.
Remind me,
so,
I would
yeah.
never go skinny dipping in that thing or dipping
Full
period,
diving.
man. I can see how so many people die on that thing. That thing is,
Yeah.
even where we were at, there was that rushing rapids. I was like, man, my Lord, I would
It was
never jump in there. I wouldn't even put
undertow,
a
big
kayak
time.
on that thing or anything,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes. Yeah, it was wild. That was a great place, though. Hema, thank you so much for becoming a member of the Hunt Club. Thank you so much for your support and for being here. And I hope you enjoy all the videos. Okay. Yeah, but the deer flies, maybe they're deer flies. That's what Candy says. Deer flies. I think they were deer flies. They were relentless and they were rough. They hurt. And now I'm itching. I was not even itching until you brought that up, and now my legs are itching. So
You still have the
on
black
that
mark?
note,
I still got a black
I'm
mark
going to
or
have
two.
to go find the SSS. Do you remember that? The Avon SSS? My mom always used to put that on us when we were kids.
Actually, yes, that's what I wear all the time. You talking about the green bottle?
It came in a clear bottle with a blue cat, turquoise, I think.
Well, they've got
see.
a few. They've got the one that's the
Also have some aloe right here.
sorry,
So,
it's waterproof. That's the one I
Yeah.
use because I'm allergic to the anticoagulant that mosquitoes inject into you, so I swell.
okay.
Yeah, I've got the deep woods, but the deep woods smells effeminate to me, and the one in the green bottle does not. I wear it all the time, and I had it
Right.
on up there, but I actually got bit a few times through that. Even it was good for a few hours after application, maybe 2-3 hours that it was on.
Oh,
I keep
yeah.
want to say what did that guy call them? Horse bite flies or what?
Horse
It wasn't
flies.
deer flies. It was something else.
I think they're horse
It's a
flies.
name that I never heard, and it's like a southern thing. Y'all have those twags, and
I mean,
it's
I
quite
tell you, they're
interesting.
either deer flies or horse flies or skeeters, some kind of skeeter. But yeah, I just bought a gigantic aloe plant, and this little piece broke off earlier today, and now I know why it broke off because I needed to put it on my bug bites. Okay, but oh my gosh. Okay. Well, this conversation has been really interesting today, Barry. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today and hanging out with me. We always make it work. You know, we start off on a topic. I told you, I was like, this one may have a tendency to go off the rails today, Barry. But I think that we pretty much kind of kept the ship steady today. I think we did. So I don't know. I really enjoyed this.
I think good information. You know,
Yes.
all the way around. So that's something that I'm worried I come on here and we start talking about so many different things that it really irritates people. You know, so I try to stay on topic somewhat, but sometimes it's just too hard. You know,
It's okay. Well, there's just so many connections, and that's what we do. We connect the dots. And yes, Cryptidville, Mark's in the chat today. Hey, Mark. He says, "How about them Bill Gates skeeters?" Yeah, now we've got like GMO mosquitoes and robotic mosquitoes, and I don't know. Gosh, Man, does it ever
Yeah,
stop?
and you've got the modified genetic mosquitoes and the ones that they're using now that are like almost smaller than nanobots that look like
Yeah.
insects. And I've always said that if
Oh,
another
yeah.
civilization wanted to really monitor us, no better way than to do miniature insectoids as
Oh my
probes,
gosh.
as
I
Bracewell
know.
probes.
To be a fly on the wall. Well, now the fly on the wall, it might not only be a monitoring spirit, it might be a robot. Okay. So oh man, you guys don't live in fear, anybody. Don't. If you see a robotic mosquito on your wall, just smush it. Just smush it.
Yeah.
Get the fly swatter. Get the what did Jeff, you know what, Jeff Townsend, my good friend Jeff, who passed away last month. Jeff Townsend gave me and my son a bug assault gun, y'all. Bug assault. Those are crazy. You put salt in it, and it's like a super soaker, but it has salt in it basically, and you can shoot. I know it's people may not appreciate it, but when you live in the South and you got flies outside and you're trying to have a barbecue, why not give your kid the bug assault gun and let him go shoot all the flies? You know what I mean? It's actually, it works pretty well. But anyways, I digress. Yes, you guys, thank you so much for being here, everybody. This has been a wonderful show. I want to thank everybody for all your support today. I hope that y'all learned something. I know I did. And Barry, can you tell everybody where they can find you?
Sorry, I was going back to looking where we were at. We were up there trying to find the name of those insects. I know they're really called black flies. Scientifically, they're black flies, but there's a nickname they have for them up there that's different. Anyway, you can reach me at stressville.com. I'm sorry, Barry Littleton. No, my email is barrylittleton13@gmail.com. I'm also available for sessions there, and also on YouTube under Barry Littleton, under Patreon under Barry Littleton, on Facebook Barry Littleton, and Instagram but under Barry Littleton. That's about as far as I've branched out so far.
Awesome. Yes, if you guys need any services from Barry, y'all hit him up, barrylittleton13@gmail.com. It's right there on the screen. Okay. And Barry, you've had a wonderful live over the weekend, and I think it was over the weekend. I don't even know what day it is.
Yeah, it was
Is it a weekend?
Sunday. Yeah,
it was Sunday.
Yeah,
That was
Sunday.
really good. If you guys can catch one of Barry's lives, please do. It's really great. We had a lot of people who are in our chat today that were in your chat.
Hey, thank you all for coming. I appreciate it. First time I got out there, an hour and a half, I had the thing set.
Yeah, timer this time.
Had the timer going, man. Yeah, that's
yeah. Oh my gosh. When you and I get together too, we usually we go a little longer than most shows, because we have a lot to talk about.
Does it take you off topic too much?
Yeah, no, well, because life's not all about the getting to your destination. It's about the journey, right?
Yeah, very true. Very true.
We got a lot of detours. Okay, divine detours, as I'm going to start calling them. All right, we got divine detours over here on this channel.
And travel broadens the mind.
It does. It does. Oh my gosh. Well, you guys, please go over and subscribe to Barry Littleton over on YouTube and on Patreon. And and thank you to everybody who gifted memberships today, and everybody who became members of my channel today as well. You guys are the best. I appreciate all the support from all of y'all. And I hope you'll come back and see me tomorrow night. I do have our Kimra coming on the show. I have remote viewed some events, and it has to do with UFOs in schoolyards, Barry. Okay, schoolyard UFOs, and so we're going to get into that tomorrow night. And also,
maybe your second time reviewing that, huh?
Yeah, well, it's not the same. It's not that. It's not the Zulu school. It's not that. It's something different. But it has. It's very similar.
So on that episode, we addressed broadly all the schoolyard encounters.
We did. We did. Well, we actually have someone that's going to be on the show tomorrow who was a part of one of those when he was a kid. Okay, so we're gonna look into that tomorrow. It's going to be a really interesting show. So, and there's way more to it, and it does involve reptilians. Okay, and portals. So y'all buckle up, buttercups. We're in for a ride tomorrow night, and it's going to be fun. It's going to be really interesting. So y'all come back and see me, and so everybody, please have a wonderful day. Keep your vibrations high, as Jane always says, and I'm sending all my love and light to all of y'all out there. And I will see y'all tomorrow. All right, Barry. Thanks again for being here. All right, y'all. All right. See y'all. Don't live in fear. Bye.